My fusion system. Fusing 1,000 chickens at the start. Chapters 441 to 449. Chapter 441. Signing a new treaty. Platinum tier item. The Blue Comet. Abilities. Comet impact. Summons a huge comet to fall and cause large-scale platinum rank damage. Pale blue flames. Liquid flames that exceed the normal temperature of fire. Flame barrier. Raises a tall flame barrier to block platinum tier attacks, and doubles the effect of fire elemental attacks. Additional ability. Sky Orbit. Creates an orbit made of flames in the sky, able to reach any location instantly. After the fusion was completed, the specific information of the platinum tier item appeared before Watson's eyes. He then handed the item back to Olena. Miss Olena, that is a platinum tier weapon made from the item you just gave me. Do you like it? Olena received the fused platinum tier earring from Watson. She looked a little shocked. She looked down at the earring, then looked up at Watson. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. It was not a matter of whether she liked it or not. She had never heard of any technology that could turn a gold tier weapon among the dragons into a platinum tier weapon. The dragon race was powerful because of their long lifespan. Just like humans, most of the dragon race's technology originated from ancient times and was left behind by the gods. Unlike humans, who changed their dynasty due to war and other factors that caused the loss of those old technologies. As the dragon race had a long history, it was not common for them to change. Therefore, most of the dragon race's technologies were preserved well. That made the understanding and manufacturing of weapons within the dragon clan far exceed that of humans. The dragon clan could create diamond tier holy relics while humans could only create platinum tier weapons. The dragon clan's technology far exceeded that of humans. That was a fact all dragons publicly acknowledged that. However, that idea broke in front of Watson's platinum tier items. The dragon race could fuse two low tier items into a higher tier item. That was no longer a forging technique but a miracle that was close to magic. King Landhar noticed the expressions on Olena and the other dragons' faces. He laughed. Lady Fafnir, now you should know why there are countless powerful geniuses in the Holy Dragon Kingdom, but I just had to name Watson as the #1 genius. Fafnir nodded when she heard that. With that technology, the strength of the Holy Dragon Kingdom can be raised to a higher level. That kind of special creativity was not something that one or two powerful geniuses could compare to. That meant that the youth had become the strongest in the kingdom purely because of his technology. From the moment she entered the capital, Fafnir had seen many shocking scenes. When she saw the skills Watson had mastered, her shock had reached its peak. In her opinion, regardless of whether it was powerful strength or precious items, they were not important. That was because no matter how powerful a genius was, they would age and die, and no matter how precious the items were, they would be damaged. However, technology was different. As long as one had the talent to master technology, they would be able to create the first two continuously. With that in mind, Fafnir could not help but think highly of Watson. Even if a low-tier human possessed such powerful technology, it was enough to earn the respect of the dragon race. At that moment, King Landhar III said, Lady Fafnir, you're wrong. In fact, Watson became the kingdom's strongest genius, not simply because of his technology, but because he defeated all the other geniuses in my competition. In other words, Watson not only has outstanding technical ability, but he also has unrivaled strength. Quote, it's clear that the power contained within that youth's body isn't as strong as the other geniuses in the kingdom that I had sensed before. Just how did he defeat those people? However, putting all that aside, just because he possessed both technology and powerful strength, that still isn't something that an ordinary person can do. I'm afraid that I'll have to rely on you, Fafnir muttered in her heart. After taking a few deep breaths, she calmed her inner feelings. She raised her head to look at King Landhar III and asked, you summoned me to the palace to show me this? You're not just showing off to the dragon clan that a great genius has appeared in your Holy Dragon Kingdom, are you? Of course, Fafnir, you and I are old acquaintances. I summoned you for one purpose only. I want to change the current situation with the Dragon Knights in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. You also know that there are only 10 Dragon Knights in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. That is because the number of dragons provided by the Dragon Clan is too minimal. This is not because the Holy Dragon Kingdom is not strong enough. Therefore, I've thought about it recently and decided to expand the number of the Dragon Knights to 100. Human King, what are you talking about? Does that mean you expect us to give you 100 dragons? The arrogance. The Dragon Clan is a race more noble and powerful than you humans. There are only a few thousand of us. Yet, you want to enslave 100 dragons? Aren't you a little too greedy? Rem sneered coldly. Olenna said, Rem, don't be anxious. The Human King is not a stupid person. He must have his intentions for such a proposal. Perhaps he has already prepared a generous gift in exchange for the 90 extra dragons. No matter how many gifts he gives, they can't be compared to our dragons. When Rem said that, her gaze shifted to the platinum tier earring in Olenna's hand. She hesitated for a moment. But if the Human King can teach us the technology to create platinum tier weapons, I think we can still consider it. King Landhar III smiled and said, I want 100 Dragon Knights, and you must cooperate unconditionally. I will not give you any reward, and the dragons you provide must survive the Dragon Knight training. King Landhar III, what do you mean? At that time, Fafnir could not hold it in any longer. Not only did she have to provide the dragons for free, but she must also ensure their survival. The Human King was too arrogant. His attitude was as if he treated the dragons as fools. He did not care about their thoughts at all. Did he want to cancel the treaty he had signed with the dragons? The smile on King Landhar III's face grew wider. He said, just as Lady Fafnir thought, the purpose of my meeting with you is to rewrite the treaty between the Dragon Clan and the Holy Dragon Kingdom. The Holy Dragon Kingdom accepted 10 dragons from the Dragon Clan in the previous treaty to nurture them. The Holy Dragon Kingdom bears all the expenses. Furthermore, the Holy Dragon Kingdom will have to pay hundreds of millions of gold coins if there are any losses incurred while we nurture the dragons. That clause is not beneficial to the Holy Dragon Kingdom. We do not receive any benefit at all. On the contrary, the Dragon Clan does not need to do anything in food, clothing, shelter, and transportation. It's like we're spending a large amount of money every year to help the Dragon Clan nurture the clan's younger generation. So what? That treaty was set 100 years ago. Your ancestors were not dissatisfied with it, so why do you have so many complaints? Even if things are as you said, it's already a great favor for you that the Dragon Clan is willing to support the Holy Dragon Kingdom and sign a treaty with you to form the Dragon Knights. Other kingdoms are begging us for the same treaty, and we have rejected every one of them. Why are you still upset? Rem expressed his dissatisfaction. I'll correct your mistakes. Your previous kings signed a treaty with us because the humans did not have the strength to fight against us. Don't tell me that humans now have the strength to fight against the Dragon Clan? I don't know about the other kingdoms, but at least the Holy Dragon Kingdom has a few geniuses who can fight against the Dragon King. With Watson's advanced technology, my kingdom can mass-produce platinum-tier weapons and armor, and even the gods are on our side. With such a powerful force, I can create a platinum-tier army. I will not have to fear anyone, including the dragon race. Quote, King Landhar III spoke with assurance, and his attitude was unyielding. The first thing he wanted to correct was the attitude of the dragon race. They were too arrogant. You're bold, Human King. Do you want to start a war with the dragon race by saying those words? Judging from the power I have now, it doesn't matter even if I start a war with the dragon race. When he learned that the Severed Fingers gang had killed a dragon to please Watson, King Landhar III already had that thought in his mind. A dragon's murder was not something the dragon race would let go of. Rather than waiting for the dragon race to question him and humbly give him compensation, he might as well be tougher. He might as well shed all pretense of cordiality with the dragon race and redraw the treaty with the dragon race. Under such circumstances, either the Dragon Clan would leave in a fit of anger and turn against the Holy Dragon Kingdom, or they would endure the fact that a dragon had been killed. He was happy with either outcome. Just as he often said, everything was in his plan. Despicable Human King, how dare you say such words? You clearly don't think much of us. Since that's the case, I'll now destroy the palace and the entire capital to avenge my dead dragon compatriots. I'll let you see the consequences of being disrespectful to the dragons. Quote, Rem roared. Petal-shaped scales appeared on her body, and the wings of a dragon spread across her back. She seemed to be on the verge of becoming a dragon. However, at that moment, King Landhar III walked into the hall. He stretched his right hand in front of the 3-meter-tall throne and gently knocked on the throne. Commandment. As he slowly uttered those 2 words, an invisible fluctuation suddenly burst from the throne. That fluctuation radiated in all directions, with King Landhar III's body as the center. When it passed through Rem, who was in the process of dragonification, her body shook, and the reaction of dragonification completely disappeared. Standing there in a daze, Rem looked at her hands in disbelief. What's going on? Why can't I turn into a dragon? I feel that all the energy in my body seems to have disappeared. Olenna and Fafnir showed similar expressions. They felt as if the power in their bodies seemed to be suppressed by some invisible force, and they could not use it at all. That power is the same as what I felt when I first entered the capital. I thought that that power originated from the second genius of the Holy Dragon Kingdom, the girl named Nia, but now it seems that power is contained in the throne in front of me. Does that throne have a special ability to seal others' strength? Fafnir looked at the huge throne in front of her. She could feel the fluctuation from the throne. Even if she was at the peak of Diamond Tier and her strength was comparable to Starlight Tier, she could not exert even the slightest bit of it. Lady Fafnir, you saw through my meaning with a single glance. That's right, your abilities are sealed by this throne. The name of that throne is the God King's Throne of Commandment. Its ability is within the scope of my rule. As long as there is no permission from me, no one, not even gods, can exert their strength here. In other words, even if the Dragon Clan were to attack in full force within the Holy Dragon Kingdom, they would be killed. Oh, right, I'll tell you one more thing. Watson created that throne. Now, not only has he mastered the ability to create Platinum Tier weapons and armor, but he can also create Starlight Tier items. Just one item can make my kingdom as tough as an iron bucket. When we create more items, one can only imagine how powerful the Holy Dragon Kingdom will be. When King Landhar III opened his arms and said those words, Watson remained silent. The 3 dragons knew that King Landhar's words were not groundless. The 3 of them had lost their abilities. If King Landhar III wanted to make a move, he did not need to find a particularly powerful elite. He only needed to find a few ordinary guards to take them down. Lady Fafnir, I'll repeat what I said just now. I want to sign a new treaty with the Dragon Clan. From now on, the Dragon Clan will provide 100 dragons for my kingdom, and you will also have to bear the full cost of the Dragon Knight training for those dragons. And we are not to be blamed for their deaths. Of course, I'm not an unreasonable person. I can promise to use Platinum Tier armor and weapons made by Watson when training those dragons. I'm even willing to give stronger items to some of the dragons who have performed exceptionally well, including Starlight Tier items. The props that those dragons carry will belong to them. The kingdom will not take them back. If you agree with me, Lady Fafnir, then let's sign a new treaty. I'll need to think about that. When Fafnir showed a hesitant look, Rem said, Lady Fafnir, what's there to think about? We can't agree to send more dragons to the Holy Dragon Kingdom for free. Furthermore, we have to bear all the expenses. In the end, we can only exchange for some items that we may not be able to get. That is a total loss for the Dragon Clan. If we agree to that, we will definitely become a joke for everyone else when we go back. In ancient times, the Dragon Clan was a powerful race that was second only to the gods. They were superior to humans and other races. Humans had always been respectful to the Dragon Clan. However, they had instead become the weaker side when faced with that human king. How could they tolerate that? Rem, my thoughts are quite different from yours. If King Landhar III can give us powerful items, as he said, it's not impossible to provide more dragons for him. We can only get more items that way, right? Olenna toyed with the platinum earring in her hand. Rem glared at Olenna fiercely and said, You idiot. Since you want to get something from the humans so much, you might as well be their mount. As long as they give me enough, it's not impossible. If they want me to be their mount, they should at least give me a Starlight Tier item. Olenna was not angry after being reprimanded. Instead, her eyes were shining as she spoke. Platinum Tier weapons were nothing more than toys to her. She was a little regretful because she had only given Watson 2 Gold Tier peak earrings. If she had given Watson a Diamond Tier item instead, she might have already obtained a Starlight Tier artifact. She would let him ride her like a pet if she could get a Starlight Tier artifact out of that. Fafnir, you don't have to worry about signing the treaty now. I'll give you 3 days to think about it. You only need to give me an answer within 3 days. King Landhar III did not have any intention of forcing her. He smiled and said, "The banquet will begin soon. Let's not talk about that for now. Let's go to the banquet first." Quote, as soon as his voice fell, he led them into the banquet hall that had already been prepared. 2 rows of chairs could be seen in the banquet hall. On the chairs were all kinds of rare delicacies, each served on a crystal-clear jade plate. Around the tables and chairs were handmaidens dressed in gorgeous clothes. They were walking around like butterflies, carrying trays filled with food and wine. Kiana and the 3 princes had already put on their formal clothes and were waiting in the hall. When they saw King Landhar III, Kiana and the others bowed their heads and looked at Fafnir and the others curiously. They had already heard that the honored guest invited by their father at that time was an elite from the Dragon Clan. It's rare to see a member of the Dragon Clan. The last time we saw them was 100 years ago. Our ancestors signed a Dragon Knight treaty with them. I wonder why they're here now. But I must seize this opportunity. The first prince reached out and touched the creases on his gown to flatten them. He looked faintly excited. As the most capable heir to the throne in the future kingdom, he had to do whatever it took to rope in powerful forces. There was no doubt that there was nothing more powerful than the Dragon Clan. If he could get their support, his status in the kingdom would become even higher. Perhaps even his father would look up to him. However, the second prince had a different thought. I heard that the Dragon Knight Legion lost a huge dragon some time ago. Does their visit have something to do with that? If that's the case, then that group of dragons might erupt and cause trouble later. I have to be careful to avoid being implicated. Speaking of which, if those dragons really dare to behave atrociously in the palace, then the kingdom will definitely break the treaty with them. That is actually a good thing for the kingdom. Because of the restrictions of the treaty, the kingdom could only have 10 dragons. If the treaty is no longer viable, the kingdom can capture wild dragons wantonly, and there will be no limit to the Dragon Knights. The third prince was also thinking about something. However, he was not thinking about the Dragon Clan. Instead, he was staring at Watson. DMN that Watson. He already has my sister, Kiana, but he still seduces the girl from the Saint Laurent family. Kiana has been complaining to me about that for a long time. Later, I must find an opportunity to teach him a good lesson. While everyone had their own ulterior motives, King Landhar III walked to the head of the dining table. He did not sit down but waved his hand. Immediately, a few guards walked in from outside and carried the huge throne. It was placed at the head of the table. After putting down the throne with great effort, the guards took a few steps backward. King Landhar III shook off the gorgeous robe on his body and sat on the throne. In an instant, the robe that was painted with the sun, the moon, and stars, as well as the dazzling crown, appeared on his body. Then, his figure blurred, leaving only a portion of his eyes that overlooked the world. "Everyone, please take a seat." A dull voice echoed in the hall. King Landhar III's voice was like the command of a god, making it impossible for anyone to refuse. Following his voice, everyone sat at the banquet table. The princes sat closest to King Landhar III, on his right. Watson, Kiana, and Nia sat to his left while the dragons sat at another table. After everyone sat down, a maid walked into the hall with silver white or gold red wine bottles in her hands. Basher, who was wearing an apron, also came in. He was carrying a huge magical beast with a metal stick on its body. The beast's shape could not be seen clearly, but it had been roasted to a crisp on the outside and tender on the inside. It emitted a rich aroma of meat, which made everyone drool. Sidi was beside Basher, who was playing with a few bottles of medicament-like condiments. Her face was full of excitement. "It's been a long time since I've cooked. Before I arrived in the divine realm, I remember that I learned to cook in the mortal world. I'll be the one to cook this time. I believe I'll definitely satisfy everyone." As Sidi spoke, Basher put the roasted magical beast on the table. He took a sharp blade from his pocket and cut it. Then, a maid put the meat on a plate and placed it in front of everyone, along with the wine. "Everyone, this is the latest wine and dish in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. I hope that our guests from the Dragon Clan can comment on it after tasting it." Basher extended his right hand and introduced the meal. The dragons immediately lowered their heads to look at the meat on the plate and the wine beside it. There was no treasure that the powerful Dragon Clan had not seen before. There was no rare delicacy that they had not tasted before, so they did not care about what Rand Harson III said. After hesitating for a moment, the first to act was Olenna. She picked up a knife and fork, picked up a piece of magical beast meat, and put it into her mouth. A moment later, her eyes suddenly widened, revealing a look of disbelief. What kind of magical beast meat is this? Why is the taste so strange? It seems to contain a lot of energy, and it is irresistible. Hearing Olenna's exclamation, Fafnir and Rem could not help but take a piece of the magical beast's meat and put it into their mouths. After tasting it, Fafnir's pupils contracted. Is this from a platinum-tier magical beast? She had eaten platinum-tier meat before as the Dragon King of the Dragon Clan. It tasted very similar to the meat in front of her. However, she had only eaten platinum-tier meat once or twice in her life. The human kingdom could actually obtain meat at that level, but it was too extravagant to capture a platinum-tier magical beast and be willing to kill it. As she sighed, an invisible scent accompanied by the unique taste of the magical beast's meat exploded in Fafnir's mouth, causing her eyelashes to tremble. She closed her eyes and leaned comfortably on the chair, sinking into an indescribable aftertaste. Even though the texture of the platinum-tier magical beast meat was good, what was more important was that the meat was sprinkled with some special spices. After taking a bite, it was as if one was in heaven. All the troubles and trivial matters were thrown out of the body. Besides Fafnir, Olenna and Rem, who had also eaten the platinum-tier magical beast meat, were also sinking into the aftertaste at that moment. They could not even speak. Fafnir only opened her eyes after a few seconds. She opened a golden red wine bottle in front of her. The dishes were already so delicious. How was the wine? She poured the golden red wine into the cup in front of her. She took a small sip. With just one sip, her expression became shocked once again. This wine seems to contain the aura of the spring of life. There is also a strange fruit fragrance. I seem to have seen that fruit fragrance somewhere before. I remember now. That is the taste of the sun fruit unique to the Forest of Eternity. Was the wine made from the sun fruit? You guessed it correctly. That wine is made from the sun and moon fruit grown in the Forest of Eternity. Now, wine is not a rare thing in the Holy Dragon Kingdom. You can buy a bottle for only 1,000 gold coins. Of course, the quality of the wine that I prepared is much higher than the ordinary wine. King Landhar III's figure was hidden within the huge throne, and others could not see the smile on his face. That banquet required him to display his strength in front of the dragons and display the unique style of the Holy Dragon Kingdom. Nothing like the precious sun fruit wine and platinum-tier magical beast meat could reflect the kingdom's wealth. Of course, I have prepared another gift for everyone here. King Landhar III clapped his hands, and guards walked in. Each of them was carrying a huge box. When they arrived in front of the three dragons, the guards opened the huge box filled with gold coins. There were at least tens of millions of gold coins. Fafnir and the others were dumbfounded. Your Majesty, what are you doing? Were the gold coins to bribe them? It looked like it. King Landhar III succeeded if that was his plan. It's nothing. My kingdom has recently earned a large number of gold coins, so much that we don't have anywhere to put them. These gold coins are redundant, so I'll give them to you as travel expenses. After all, you've come all that way for a long journey. It doesn't matter if you agree to sign a new treaty with me or not, that money is yours. Quote, King Landhar III's rich voice caused Fafnir and the other two to fall into silence once again. 10 million gold coins were given just like that. Even some ordinary dragons would not have such a terrifying wealth. In addition, they had tasted the magical beast meat and wine brewed from the sun fruit, which made them wonder what had happened to the Holy Dragon Kingdom, for it had changed so much. They felt like the Holy Dragon Kingdom was a completely different kingdom compared to a few years ago. Had they excavated a few ancient ruins and obtained many treasures from them? Fafnir could not help but think so, but she did not show it. She said, in that case, thank you, Your Majesty. Initially, she disagreed with King Landhar III's idea of signing a new treaty. She said that she needed to consider it because her ability was sealed. As long as she left the Holy Dragon Kingdom, she would report everything that happened there to the other kings of the Dragon Clan. They would either lead the Dragon Army to attack the kingdom or lead the Dragon Clan to leave the Holy Dragon Kingdom. However, she was inclined to sign a new treaty with King Landhar III. She had tasted more platinum-tier magical beast meat and received a reward of tens of millions of gold coins. However, King Landhar III did not promise anything more. If they signed a new contract with King Landhar III, one could imagine they would only receive more things. While Fafnir was still hesitating, King Landhar III threw out another surprise. "Oh, right, I'm going to spend money to upgrade all the industries in the kingdom. The Holy Dragon Kingdom has no more room for improvement in the fields of weapons and armor. Therefore, the next step is to upgrade the kingdom's potion-making industry. The potion-making industry has not been doing well recently. The output has dropped by 50% compared to the past few years. Fortunately, there is a goddess among the kingdom's 7 gods who control shadows and potions. With Watson's help, I believe that the kingdom's potion-making level will be upgraded to a new level soon. The dragon clans should be very familiar with potions. Most of them can increase a person's strength, and some have magical effects, including potions that increase reproductive ability. That is the focus of my current research. I plan to use that potion to make the kingdom give birth to more children in the short term. In less than 10 years, the Holy Dragon Kingdom will become the most populous kingdom on the continent and the kingdom with the strongest combat power. I wonder if the Dragon Clan has any thoughts about potions that can speed up the reproduction rate." King Landhar III, you don't have to say anymore. I agree with your idea of signing a new treaty with the Dragon Clan. Fafnir took out a handkerchief, wiped her mouth, and sighed. Rem and Olena wanted to say something, but they kept their mouths shut because they knew that even if they were in the same position as Fafnir, they would still make that decision. The potion proposed by King Landhar III to accelerate fertility was too tempting for the dragons. The dragons were powerful, but they would make deals with the humans for that. Their fertility rate was too low, making it impossible for them to survive in that world alone. If the potion could increase the number of dragons, then they would have a completely different chance of ruling that world. Compared to the other things that King Landhar III had given them, that condition would move them more. King Landhar III, I agree to sign a new treaty with you. There is only one condition, and that is I need the fertility potion that you mentioned. You must ensure that the effect of the potion is stable and harmless. The kingdom can research the potion first. Then, I will make sure that it is useful before signing a new treaty. Is that okay? There's no need to go through so much trouble, Lady Fafnir. It's just a potion to promote fertility. You can just leave such a small matter to Watson. King Landhar III turned his gaze to Watson, who had been eating since the banquet started. He said, "Watson, I've given you a task. Develop a potion that can promote the dragon's fertility rate. You can do that in a day, right?" Watson could not only make weapons, but he could also make potions. The 3 women looked surprised. Feeling the gazes of the 3 Dragon Clan members, Watson put down his knife and fork, revealing a somewhat depressed expression. He only wanted to have a peaceful meal. Why would King Landhar III target him? "Your Majesty, that kind of thing is quite tricky. I'll try my best to do it." "Watson, is that really difficult for you? I want it in 1 day. If you can't develop the corresponding potion within a day, you'll have to bear the consequences. You'd have to stay in the palace and by my side until you develop the potion." "Yes, Your Majesty. It won't be that difficult to make such a potion." King Landhar III felt angry and amused at Watson's contradictory words. He knew Watson could make such a potion, but he did not want to do it. He had urged the young man to agree with him. He clearly had extraordinary strength, but he did not have any desire to show it. That youth left him with no choice. "Fafnir, you heard Watson's words. The potion will be ready tomorrow. So before that, why don't you sign the treaty with me in advance?" "That's fine. It's only 1 day ahead of schedule anyway. Remember this, King Landhar III. If you lie to me, I won't just tear up the treaty. I will get the entire Dragon Clan to go up against the Holy Dragon Kingdom. Don't worry, Fafnir, I have the confidence to do it." King Landhar III's voice was calm. His confidence came from Watson and Seedy, who were beside him. In fact, even without Watson, Seedy would have created the potion anyway. The reason he chose Watson was that it would be beneficial to his subsequent plans. He even asked Seedy to help him prepare the meal in advance. Things had developed just as he had expected. He said that he would give the dragons 3 days to consider. However, he did not really want them to consider it for too long. He wanted Fafnir to sign a contract with him before the banquet ended. After hearing King Landhar III's affirmation, Fafnir hesitated for a moment, gritted her teeth, and seemed to have made up her mind. Even if I don't believe you, I'm afraid I have no other choice now. After all, with our powers sealed, even our lives are in your hands. There's no point in wasting time. Let's sign the contract now. I like your straightforwardness. King Landhar III clapped his hands. Immediately, a guard came out with parchment and a quill pen and placed them in front of him and Fafnir, respectively. After writing down the terms and requirements, Fafnir and King Landhar III cut their fingers and pressed a bright red handprint on the papers. The contract took effect as the two parchment papers gleamed with luster. After putting away the parchment papers, King Landhar III and Fafnir looked at each other. Fafnir heaved a sigh of relief while King Landhar III revealed a genuine smile. The contract between the Holy Dragon Kingdom and the dragon race had completely changed from that moment onward. The former weakness of the Holy Dragon Kingdom had turned into the weakness of the dragon race. That was a slight improvement for the Holy Dragon Kingdom, but it was a big step for mankind. The dragon race is only a minor obstacle. It's time to let those foolish and arrogant dragons understand who is the real master of this continent. King Landhar III clenched his fist quietly, his eyes burning with flames. His gaze was not there at that moment but in the distant future. Chapter 442, The Goddess Concession. I hereby announce that the banquet has officially begun. Everyone, please enjoy yourselves. After signing the treaty, King Landhar III returned to his throne. Then, a group of scantily clad maids immediately appeared in the banquet hall and began to dance. At the same time, King Landhar III also picked up his knife and fork. That was like a signal. The people at the banquet began to eat and drink. Soon, the feast gradually came to an end. Night fell, and the banquet ended. The three dragons bade farewell to King Landhar III, who said, "Fafnir, tomorrow I will be preparing to expand the Dragon Knight Legion. I will do that at the Royal Academy. When the time comes, I will need you to go to the Royal Academy. At the same time, the potion you need will also be prepared for you." "Got it, I'll be there." Fafnir gave King Landhar III a profound look. She knew that King Landhar III had rushed to sign a treaty with her because he had already prepared a plan for the future. She did not know how far the human king had gone. What a terrifying fellow. Fafnir had never felt the power of someone as strong as King Landhar III. The human king was like a bottomless abyss. No one knew what was in him. "If there's nothing else, King Landhar III, we'll take our leave." Then, Fafnir walked out with the other two dragons. They passed by Watson and stopped. Fafnir thought of something and stood in front of Watson. "Watson, right? I hope that you can research a potion that can improve our fertility. That is very important to the dragons. If you can do it, then I will give you rewards on behalf of the dragons, and I will even bring you to the Dragon Clan and make you one of us." "Fafnir, you dare to poach one of my talents in front of me?" The voice of King Landhar III came from the side. Fafnir smiled and said, "Your Majesty, does Watson belong to the Dragon Knight Legion that you want to build? It's a pity if a genius like him isn't a Dragon Knight. I sincerely hope that he can become a member of the Dragon Knight Legion." Watson was at a loss for words, and King Landhar III was slightly stunned. The Dragon Knight Legion is the most elite force in the kingdom, and Watson, as the kingdom's strongest genius, is qualified to be part of them. King Landhar III's answer made Fafnir smile. "Is that so? Then I'm relieved. I'll send a message to my compatriots in the Dragon Lair tonight, asking them to choose a dragon willing to cooperate with the Holy Dragon Kingdom. When I go to the Royal Academy, I'll lead the recruits to the Dragon Lair and let them choose the dragon they like. As for Watson, well, as the kingdom's #1 genius, an ordinary dragon is definitely not worthy of his status. Tomorrow, I will choose a dragon for him and let him become the most powerful dragon knight in the kingdom's history." Fafnir patted Watson's shoulder, turned around, and left with her two subordinates. Watson looked at his shoulder. Feeling the residual heat, he frowned slightly. He felt like things had become very troublesome for him. "Your Majesty, I think we should forget about Fafnir's request. I have no intention of becoming a dragon knight. Fafnir has already made her intentions clear. We can't disrespect her. You should agree to her conditions and become a dragon knight. I want to see what kind of dragon Fafnir will choose for you." King Landhar III also had a profound look on his face. Your Majesty, all right, Watson, the banquet is over. There's nothing more for me to do here. Next, you should think about what kind of potion to give to Fafnir. Or you can take a walk in the palace with Kiana to gain some inspiration. I appreciate your kindness, but it's very late and I'm a little tired. I'd better go back and rest. Watson, did you think that was a request? It was an order. If you don't take a walk with Kiana for an hour, you're not allowed to leave. No way. Despite Watson's wail, King Landhar III seemed to be in a good mood. He turned around and strode away, leaving a depressed Watson behind. Watson, what's wrong? Are you unhappy about taking a walk and chatting with Kiana? Just as King Landhar III left, the third prince walked to Watson's side and put his hand on his shoulder. No, I'm not unhappy. Since it was the prince who spoke, Watson could only respond politely. Really? The third prince had a look of disbelief on his face, and the corners of his mouth rose. If you're not unhappy, then you can chat with me after your walk with Kiana. You won't have any objections, right? The corners of Watson's mouth twitched. At that moment, the three princes arrived in front of Watson. The first prince was the first to speak. Third brother, can't you see that Watson doesn't look too well? At a time like this, you should not force him to accompany you on a walk. Quote, as expected of the first prince, an older person was indeed more understanding. Watson had just thought of that when he heard the first prince say, so third brother, it's better if you don't chat with Watson. I'll do it for you here. Watson, I can see that the Dragon Clan is very interested in you, and I'm interested in the Dragon Clan. Let's discuss it properly later. Eldest brother, I'm the same as third brother. I also want to chat with Watson. You can't be the only one who can talk to Watson, right? I know quite a bit about potions. Father assigned Watson the task of developing a potion in a single day. The mission is not easy to complete. Perhaps I can help Watson. The second prince's gaze met with the first prince's, and sparks flew as their eyes sparkled at the same time. The first prince wanted to chat with Watson because he wanted to rope in those from the dragon race, and the dragon race had high hopes for Watson. Before they could rope in the dragon race, they had to build a good relationship with Watson. The second prince wanted to discuss with Watson because he thought he would have a share of the credit if Watson could successfully create the potion. His father might think highly of him then. Both of them were thinking about how to use Watson. Only the third prince laughed and said, eldest brother, second brother, you don't have to argue. Watson has won the competition, and he has the right to inherit the throne, just like us. He's like our brother. Since we all want to chat with him, we might as well let him stay in the palace. That way, Kiana can spend more time with him. Yes, third brother, that is a good idea. Kiana hopped toward them from afar. When she came to Watson's side, she took his hand and turned her head to her brothers. What do you think, eldest brother, second brother? Not bad, as expected of third brother. Even I can't think of such a good idea. The two princes praised their younger brother, but the way they looked at Watson changed. They had forgotten that Watson also had the right to inherit the throne. It would be funny if they fought but let Watson become the king. In terms of pure ability, they were not as good as Watson. If they wanted to become king, they could only use Watson and suppress him at the same time. While the two princes were deep in thought, Seedy came in front of Watson with a glass of red wine, revealing a smug face. Watson, if you can't think of how to make a potion to increase fertility, you can come and ask me. As the goddess who controls potions, no one knows more about the making of potions than me. As long as you beg me and make me a divine artifact similar to the throne that King Landhar III sat on, I will help you. How about it? No need. Watson, are you sure you don't want my help? The conditions might be too harsh for you. I don't need you to beg me, you just have to make me a divine artifact. I don't need your help. Other than helping you complete King Landhar III's mission, I'll give you some other benefits too. Hey, I haven't finished my words. Can't I have half a divine artifact? Don't walk away from me. Watson, don't be so heartless. After all, I'm your companion now. What's wrong with forging a weapon for me? Did my bad attitude make you angry? I'll apologize to you. Don't force me. I'm a goddess. If you don't respect me and force my hands, you won't have a good ending. Watson was utterly unmoved by Seedy's threat. He even felt like laughing. Glancing at Seedy, He asked expressionlessly. Oh? Force your hands? What can you do to me? I don't have to be polite to you. Seedy's expression changed a few times. Then, she grabbed Watson's hand and placed it on her chest. Watson, this body is perfect. I'll let you touch my chest. Many humans had a lifelong desire to touch a goddess. You should be grateful. In return, don't refuse my request. I can even let you touch me with both hands. That is the greatest concession I can make. Quote, Watson was speechless. He frowned, but he could not be bothered with Seedy. Watson turned around and walked out of the palace. Seedy had a wine glass in one hand and held onto him with the other. The apron-wearing high-ranking official nearby smiled when he saw that. The king asked me to cook food here. He even ordered me to cook a platinum-tier magical beast, but I had wanted to refuse. However, it was worth it to see a side of young Master Watson that no one knows about. I believe that when the Severed Fingers gang members find out about that, they will definitely die of envy. In order to let young Master Watson spend a pleasant night in the palace, it seems like I will have to cook more supper to prevent young Master Watson from starving. Chapter 443, The All-Powerful Genius. Have you heard? Something big is going to happen at the Royal Academy today. What is it? Tell me quickly. I received news yesterday that the Dragon Clan has appeared in the royal city. They made an agreement with His Majesty, saying that they would come to the Royal Academy to choose recruits for the Dragon Knight Legion. I also heard that His Majesty had signed a new contract with the Dragon Clan. He was dissatisfied with 10 Dragon Knights, so His Majesty decided to expand the Dragon Knight Legion to 100 people. The 90 recruits will be selected from the Royal Academy. I wonder who will be lucky enough to be part of the 90 recruits. Are you serious? They want to expand the Dragon Knight Legion to 100 people? Even if His Majesty agrees to it, will the Dragon Clan agree to it? That's right. The father of my uncle's brother's nephew's sister is a guard in the royal palace. Just yesterday, he overheard the discussion between His Majesty and the Dragon Clan. Just as you said, the Dragon Clan did not agree at first, but later, His Majesty gave them 10 million gold coins, countless rare treasures, and fine wine. They decided to do it happily. Whether it's true or not, we'll know when we see if anyone from the Royal Academy is doing recruitment for the Dragon Knights Legion. It was early in the morning. Many exciting discussions had broken out in the Royal Academy. Many students were whispering among themselves, discussing the rumors circulating in the royal city. Watson and Christina walked down the small path toward the direction of the warrior department. Watson kept yawning. Due to King Landhar III's order and the long conversation with the 3 princes, he had stayed in the palace until very late. When he got home, he had to entertain his 2 masters. Antonio and Reed interrogated him separately after returning home, asking if King Landhar III had done anything to him after being invited to the palace. Watson could only tell them everything that had happened in the royal palace. After hearing his words, both of them had ugly expressions on their faces. They said that King Landhar III must have done something terrible to the Dragon Clan. By expanding the Dragon Knight Legion to 100 people, the strength of the Holy Dragon Kingdom would increase by leaps and bounds. One ordinary Dragon Knight was equivalent to an army of 10,000 people. 100 Dragon Knights were enough to flatten the other 4 kingdoms on the continent. The most important thing was that King Landhar III's strength had become stronger. It would be difficult to overthrow his rule. As Watson's staunch supporters, Reed and Antonio's heads ached when they thought about that. On the other hand, Watson was relatively calm. He felt like even if the number of Dragon Knights increased from 10 to 100 or even 1,000, it would not have any impact on him because those dragons could be fused whenever he wanted. It was the same for the God King's Throne of Commandment, a peak Starlight tier weapon that he had fused for King Landhar. The king might have thought that he had obtained a magnificent treasure, but what he did not know was that everything that Watson had fused remained as Watson's. With just a thought, he could use the God King's Throne of Commandment to control King Landhar III. I wonder what kind of dragon Fafnir will give me. It's not impossible to become a Dragon Knight, but I already have the Golden Flash and the Death Omen Star Dragon on Mount Creation. If the dragon she gives me is not as strong as the Golden Flash and Charcoal, I might as well summon them to the capital and make them my mounts, Watson thought to himself. In his opinion, if the dragon he accepted were not strong enough, not only would they be useless, but the dragon would also monitor him. As for exposing the golden flash and charcoal to King Landhar III, that was not a good thing either. Therefore, he weighed the pros and cons of those 2 points. I have to worry about becoming a dragon knight and the potion that King Landhar III asked me to develop to improve the fertility of the dragons. Both issues are very troublesome. Before I came to the academy, I gathered some fertility-enhancing potions through the Severed Fingers gang. If I fuse them, creating a potion that's effective on the dragons won't be a problem. However, is it a good idea to do that? He had already displayed sufficient strength in front of King Landhar III, including creating Starlight tier weapons. As a result, the first person that King Landhar III thought of when he mentioned the creation of weapons was him. If he showed his talent in potion making, King Landhar III would probably summon him to the palace more frequently in the future to manufacture all kinds of things. If that went on, not only would it waste his time, but he would also expose too many of his trump cards in front of King Landhar III. I should either create a potion that can increase the dragon's fertility at the lowest level or pretend to fail. Watson thought for a very long time but could not come up with a good idea. He took a deep breath and threw those worries to the back of his mind. There was always a way out. It was useless to think so much. As for the task given to him by King Landhar III, even if he could not create the potion, King Landhar III would not blame him too much. Watson relaxed and focused his attention elsewhere. At that moment, he was not far from the warrior department. The number of students around him had increased. They gathered in 2s and 3s to discuss matters related to the expansion of Dragon Knight Legion. He had attended the banquet in the palace the previous day. Other than the members of the royal family, only the dragons, Nia and Sidi, had participated in the feast. Nia and Sidi would not tell anyone about those matters, and the royal family members would definitely not tell anyone either. In other words, the information that those students knew was intentionally revealed by King Landhar III. He wanted to let people know about the expansion of Dragon Knight Legion. King Landhar III is really a resourceful king. Not only did he suppress the matter with the dead dragon last night, but he also signed new terms with the Dragon Clan to make the kingdom stronger. Thus, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Watson could not help but sigh in his heart. King Landhar III did not contribute much to achieving such a result. On the contrary, he only relied on the sun fruit wine, gold coins, and a Starlight tier weapon that Watson had fused. When Watson had fused those things, he only thought of using them to make money or weapons for his subordinates. He had not thought of using those things as bargaining chips, so he did not need to fight to make the enemy compromise. That was how a politician would think. He reflected on that. In the future, when he was with King Landhar III, he could not just think of ways to bring him down. At the same time, he had to learn those useful aspects from King Landhar III as well. When he became the ruler, he would need those skills. Watson. While he was thinking, someone suddenly shouted his name. He stopped and turned around to see a girl running toward him. It was Rose, whom he had saved yesterday. Soon, she arrived in front of him with a woman who looked similar to her. However, the woman was more mature, and her body was emitting the fluctuations of an elite. At that moment, Rose Weiser was panting, and her head was sweaty. Her hands were propped up on her calves, and she could not say a word. "Miss Rose Weiser, what's wrong?" Watson asked. "Watson, I agreed to what you offered me yesterday. I'm willing to be your subordinate and help you make the potion." After taking 2 deep breaths, Rose adjusted her breathing. She said, "I have to apologize to you for what happened yesterday. I rejected your offer, but you changed my mind so quickly. There's one more thing. I hope you won't be angry. My sister accidentally ate the black and white bead you gave me yesterday." Rose looked apologetic and nervous as she spoke. She was worried that Watson would not agree to her request after hearing that. She was even more worried that Watson would be angry because she had lost a precious potion. "So, you are Watson. Let me introduce myself. I am Rose's sister, and my name is Stella. Yesterday, I accidentally swallowed your bead. I am really sorry. This is not my sister's fault. If that bead is something very precious to you, I will compensate you, no matter the price. I only hope that you can agree to my sister's request to make the potion with you." Stella walked in front of Watson. Suddenly, she knelt on one knee toward Watson. That scene attracted the attention of many people in the surrounding area. They all turned their heads toward Watson and started whispering. Isn't that Stella and Rose from the Abador family? Why is Stella kneeling toward Watson? Did Watson do something to the Abador family? The Winter Nation had attacked Rose in the Royal Academy's dining hall, but Watson had saved her. Many people have seen it. After that, Watson even extended an invitation to Rose, but she had rejected him. That made many people suspect that Watson might have become angry out of humiliation and had done something to the Abador family. The discussions reached Stella, who was kneeling on the ground. She raised her head and looked around them. Don't misunderstand. I'm kneeling not because Watson did anything to our Abador family. On the contrary, Watson is the benefactor of our family. It's because of him that I was able to advance to Platinum Tier and become an angel successfully. As the sound of her voice faded, 6 gigantic wings spread out from Stella's back. Pure white feathers encircled her as they slowly descended. The halo that appeared above her head also erupted with a dazzling radiance, making her look incomparably beautiful and filled with a holy aura. The aura of Platinum Tier spread out in all directions without holding anything back. That scene caused many onlookers to be stunned. Watson, you gave me this power. From now on, I will work for you until you are satisfied. Of course, if you are still not satisfied with that, you can kill me and take back my power. Sister, what are you talking about? Is it necessary for you to do that? That is different from what we had agreed on. Rose exclaimed. Rose Weiser did not understand why her sister did that, but she had told Rose to apologize to Watson. She was also aware of the high value of the potion Watson had created. Apologies were not enough to compensate for losing such a precious thing. Watson, a solid form potion is all it takes to make me this way. If we can mass produce it, I believe that the number of Platinum Tier elites in the Holy Dragon Kingdom will soar. If we have enough time and sufficient raw materials, everyone in the Holy Dragon Kingdom can turn into angels in the future. Watson's medicine had such high value. Stella was from a potion-making family, so she knew they could enter a brand new era with Watson's help. The status of the Abador family would also rise along with the tide. Her sacrifice would not be a loss, it would be a huge profit for everyone. Stella's appearance is the same as a legendary angel. Does such a potion exist? Turning a human into an angel and obtaining the strength of a Platinum Tier elite? Most importantly, Watson had made that potion. Everyone turned their gazes toward Watson. The young man's previous performance in the competition was already very shocking. In addition, he had mastered special magic that could fuse weapons. One would already call him a monster. They did not expect that Watson would also have such profound attainments in the field of potions. Had they ever had a talent who knew everything in the world? Many people did not believe it, but they had seen Stella's angelic appearance. The powerful aura of a higher tier life form pressed on their bodies, making them shudder. They had no choice but to believe it. Stella was nervous when Watson remained quiet. Watson, are you still not satisfied with what I've said? As long as you teach the Abador family the formula for the potion that can turn people into angels, we will support you from here onward. I can also kill myself here. I've only taken the potion for 1 day, and the power still exists in my blood. If a potion maker like you can refine the potion from my blood, it won't be too difficult. Sister, that's enough. Rose could not take it anymore and said, Watson, don't blame my sister for what happened yesterday. If you want to blame someone, blame me. If someone has to die, then it should be me. Miss Rose, what are you doing? What is this about committing suicide and dying? I don't have such thoughts, Watson said slowly, with a strange look on his face. Watson, the potion you gave me yesterday is gone now. Aren't you angry? Stella and Rose looked at each other. It's not as serious as you think, Miss Rose. After all, the bead I gave you yesterday is not particularly important to me. It's just a product that I made casually. If it were something important, I would not have given it to you, would I? Watson's simple words were undoubtedly shocking to the ears of the people around him. A potion that could turn a person into an angel in an instant? That should be significant. What was important to Watson then? Watson was deliberately showing off, right? Stella, who was kneeling on the ground, looked a little lost. She mustered her courage to say that she would commit suicide in front of Watson. Who would have thought that Watson did not care at all about that potion? She was puzzled. Christina, who was beside Watson, had not said anything. At that moment, she shook her head. Others might have thought that Watson was bluffing if they did not understand him. However, she knew that Watson was not bluffing. Instead, he was being a little modest. After all, Watson could raise a person to the platinum or even stronger tier without relying on potions. What was wrong with using potions to turn a person into an angel? Why were they so surprised? I am happy that Miss Rose is willing to agree to my proposal to make potions with me. However, there is no need to keep saying things like dying. I wish we could make potions and money together, and I don't have any thoughts about killing anyone. Don't say such things in the future. Promise me, Miss Rose. Watson revealed a gentle smile and extended his right hand to Rose. From now on, we are companions. At that moment, Watson's smile was as warm as the sun in Rose's eyes, making her excited. She nodded and extended her right hand. Watson, no, young Master Watson. From now on, I, Roseweiser, will be one of your potion maker. I will follow your orders and work hard to learn from you. Their hands met in midair. It was the start of a partnership. You flatter me. Regarding the recipe for the blessings of the gods that I gave you yesterday, I will pass it to you later, Miss Rose. As for Miss Stella, please put away your wings and get up. I didn't create the potion I gave you yesterday. Instead, it was an ancient formula that I accidentally obtained from some ruins. As long as you follow the formula, anyone can refine the potion to turn a person into an angel. Therefore, I'm not necessarily better than you in terms of potions. Watson shook his head humbly. There were so many people in the Royal Academy. If he were to announce that he could refine a potion that could turn people into angels, it would definitely reach the ears of King Landhar III. He already had an issue with a potion to increase the dragon's fertility rate. If they knew he had such achievements in potion making, they would certainly make things difficult for him. When he gave the bead to Roseweiser, he wanted to test that girl. He did not expect that someone from the Abador family would be so bold to swallow something when they did not know what it was. I see. She loosened her grip on Watson's hand. Roseweiser was a little disappointed. She thought that Watson created the potion, and she believed that Watson had already reached a godly tier in potion-making skills. Her thoughts were dispelled when she heard what Watson said. So, it wasn't a potion created by Watson. That scared me. I knew it. How could there be a potion that could turn people into angels in this era? It would be reasonable if it were an ancient potion, but Watson is quite lucky to obtain such a precious potion formula. The passers-by around them also heaved a sigh of relief. Watson had not developed that magical potion, so they had been shocked for nothing. That young man had such a high level in different fields such as cultivation, forging, and potion making. How could such an all-powerful genius exist in that world? Chapter 444. Augustus wants to turn the tables. The matter between Watson and Rose played out like a small movie for the many students of the Royal Academy. Soon, the surrounding spectators dispersed and continued to discuss the expansion of the Dragon Knights. Meanwhile, Watson led his friends to the warrior department. Watson, when I heard that you were the strongest genius in the kingdom, I was worried that you were an arrogant fellow. It seems like you are quite approachable. Don't worry, you let me off with your kindness. I will definitely repay you in the future. Oh, right, the potion you gave me? Since it wasn't created by you but was a product of an ancient ruin, do you have any more on you? I want to eat another one. Perhaps my strength will become stronger. As they walked down the road, Stella and Watson put their arms around each other's shoulders as if they were good friends. Sister, how could you do that? Watson gave us blessings from the gods and demons. It's already a considerable investment. The Abador family should have paid for that. Watson didn't ask for payment from us, so how could you ask for more precious potions from him? What's the big deal? Stella opened her mouth and tightened her grip on Watson's shoulder. I've already said that Watson will use my strength. If I become stronger, won't it be of greater help to Watson? Furthermore, you said that you wanted the reward. The Abador family already has a reward, you. After all, you're the most outstanding potion maker in our family. You'll always be able to compensate for the loss of the blessings from the gods and demons if you work hard for Watson. Maybe if you sell your looks, you'll have more room to make up for it. After knowing that Watson did not create the potion, Stella did not respect Watson that much anymore. Sister, Roseweiser's tone became more serious. She raised her eyebrows, and her face was as red as an apple. Watson smiled bitterly and said, "All right, stop teasing me. I'll find a pen and paper and write down the formula for you. The formula that can turn people into angels is very complicated. If you continue to disturb me, don't blame me if I write the wrong one." Quote. Rose and Stella did not dare say anything else. They nodded and followed him into the warrior department. Only Christina stopped and looked at Watson with a strange expression. She shook her head and followed him. She knew that Watson was just trying to scare them. With Watson's ability, even if he miswrote it, it would probably have more powerful effects than ordinary potions. It's only been 1 day since the start of school, and Watson has already roped in a genius from the Royal Academy and gained the support of a family. What a monster! The Abador family is the strongest in the kingdom's potion-making industry. Even if the industry is not doing well in the Holy Dragon Kingdom, gaining the support of an entire family is still not a small effort. Quote. After learning that Watson would overthrow King Landhar III, Christina and Antonio, like Reed, had always been worried about that. However, she realized that she did not need to do anything because Watson could handle all of that independently. When they entered their class, they did not notice that 2 pairs of eyes were staring at them nearby. The owner of the first pair of eyes was huge. His hand was stuffed with chicken drumsticks and hamburgers, and he was throwing them into his mouth. It looked like a small mountain of meat. Duke Piggy, what do you think of Watson's behavior just now? It seems like young Master Watson is pretty interested in roping in the kingdom's geniuses. When His Majesty held the competition at the Royal Academy, we thought that he would obtain the future throne. It was just a gimmick. But now, it seems like he would really become the future king. Compared to the 3 princes, there is no doubt that Watson's ability is more outstanding. I wonder if you are interested in joining him. A beautiful woman with sky blue hair stood next to the man who looked like a mountain of meat. Her voice was as beautiful as a sea fairy, making people unable to stop listening to her. The man called Duke Piggy did not stop putting food into his mouth. He shook his head. My ability is to eat and show what I've eaten. That is a rather useless ability. And because of that ability, I need to eat a lot of food every day. No one would want to rope in a good-for-nothing like me, who can only eat. Even if Watson wants to rope me in, it's definitely not because of my strength. It's because of my family. If Watson is really doing that, then it means that he's not as bright as I thought. The possibility of him becoming a future king is also very slim. Looking at the actions he displayed at the Academy's entrance, he doesn't seem like a brainless person. After all, I don't believe a single word he said about obtaining the potion from the ancient ruins. The sky blue-haired girl raised her right hand. Her fingers gently twirled her hair, revealing a charming smile. A few passing students were so engrossed in her that they even bumped into the wall. Duke Piggy, I've told you many times that your ability is not as weak as you think. I'd really like to see if Watson would take the initiative to rope you in. If Watson can recognize your strength, there's no doubt that he would be the best person for us to serve. As a member of the Royal Academy, we would have to choose a prince to serve in the future. If we can choose the king's successor, then we'll earn a lot of money. Therefore, we must choose a side in advance. Let's wait and see. The sky blue-haired woman revealed a mischievous smile as she watched Watson leave. I heard that His Majesty will be coming to the Royal Academy today. He will be accompanied by several important figures from the Dragon Clan. His Majesty is here to select 90 recruits for the Dragon Knight Legion. He must choose someone from a duke's family, you know that, right? That's right. My father told me about that yesterday and told me to get one of the spots at all costs. However, for a good-for-nothing like me, even if I fought with others, it would still be difficult for me to get the qualification to become a Dragon Knight, right? Quote, that might not be the case. The Dragon Knight Legion emphasizes the compatibility between humans and dragons. After all, in terms of strength, a platinum tier or even diamond tier dragon is more powerful than a human. Since it's better to get a dragon, why do you have to spend so much effort training a Dragon Knight? That's because humans have intelligence and are more disciplined than dragons. When humans and dragons work together, they can be more effective. That is the essence of the Dragon Knight Legion. You and I might have a chance too. If that were the case, that would be great. Be optimistic. We have to be prepared for everything. If Watson is not the genius we expected, then it would be good to become a Dragon Knight. That way, we'll have more ways to survive in the future kingdom. Quote, while the two were chatting on the other side, Watson had brought the 2 Abador family members into the class. He took out a parchment and a quill pen from his seat. Watson wrote down the materials used for the blessing of the gods and demons and handed them to Rose. During that process, Rose was like a devout pilgrim. Her hands trembled as she took the parchment. Her gaze focused on it as she carefully read every word written by Watson. Soon, she read the contents of the parchment, and her expression became excited. She muttered to herself, "So, that's the formula that can make people advance to platinum tier angels. Just as I thought, that potion has no side effects at all. That is the level I've been dreaming of. No, that has already surpassed the tier I've been longing for. If I had not seen this formula, I might never have thought that that potion could be made in this way. Isn't that an exaggeration? Rose, let me see what's written on that paper." Stella leaned over. She only saw 2 lines of words. She screamed, "What's going on? Does that potion really need the spring of life? That's the Elven Kingdom's most precious treasure in the Forest of Eternity. No wonder that potion could raise one's strength to platinum tier without any side effects. That's what it needs." The only person who had drunk from the spring of life was Antonio. That allowed him to obtain eternal life. Everyone wanted to drink from the spring of life. Compared to Rose's shock, Stella was more disappointed. She did not expect such a magical platinum tier potion to need such a precious thing. She had hoped to rely on that potion to make money, increase the reputation of the Abador family, and make potion maker the most sought-after profession in the kingdom. Unfortunately, she knew that that wish could not be fulfilled. That was because they could not obtain any water from the spring of life. Even if they did, it would be at a sky-high price. It was very likely that the price of the potion would not be as high as the cost. As the saying went, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. That was Stella's state. As if sensing her disappointment, Watson smiled and said, "Don't worry, Miss Stella. Since I can create the blessing of the gods and demons, it means that I have water from the spring of life. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the sources. Of course, I obtained water from the spring of life from the ancient ruins. It's not unlimited, therefore, the Abador family has to pay a certain fee when using it." "I see. Then I'm relieved. As long as the materials are enough, we're willing to pay, no matter how much it costs." Rose nodded, then glanced at her sister. "Sister, you're making a fuss out of nothing. It's too embarrassing. If we want regular potions to achieve magical effects, then we will have to use powerful materials. Without any special precious herbs, it's impossible to make those potions. The essence of a potion is to use the herbs to fuse and neutralize any useless impurities and increase the potency of the potion." Quote, "The blessing of the gods and demons created by young Master Watson is quite textbook in potion-making techniques. The side effects of the spring of life water are very strong. Even though you can gain eternal life after taking it, your strength will be frozen at that moment forever. Young Master Watson can cancel out that side effect and also raise one's strength to platinum tier. That is the reason I praise him. Rose Wiser, when it comes to potions, you're like a different person. I know that the potion is potent. I was just mocking it. Watson, if it's convenient, can you tell me how many potions you can produce with the water from the spring of life? The spring of life will not be exhausted. If you use it carefully, it won't be a problem to keep producing it." "Keep producing it? Why didn't you say so earlier, Watson? I thought I could only make a few blessing of the gods and demons." "You frightened me." Stella became excited again. At the same time, she sighed inwardly at Watson's good luck. Why could the Abador family not have such luck? If they could also find ancient ruins and obtain formula and water from the spring of life, they would have long pushed the kingdom's potion-making industry to another peak. At the very least, as professional potion makers, they could do better than Watson. While Watson was discussing the blessing of the gods and demons with Stella, Augustus kept looking at the formula in Rose's hands with a sinister gaze. He owed 900 holy relics because of Watson, and he could not repay them. However, Watson was excitedly discussing the matter of the potion with the Abador family. That made him feel as if the gap between him and Watson was getting wider and wider. He had heard about Stella's becoming a platinum tier angel. He also knew that the formula in Watson's hands was the one that could produce platinum tier potions. If I can obtain that formula and sell it to the noblemen in the kingdom, I might be able to collect 900 holy relics. You've caused me so much trouble, Watson, but you're still thinking about making money. How can there be such a good thing in the world? Augustus thought about it. A magical potion that could turn a person into an angel was much more valuable than a mere holy relic. After all, a holy relic could only make a person stronger. However, obtaining that potion could allow a person to create a platinum-tier army of angels. At a glance, it was clear which was more precious. I believe that even His Majesty would be moved after learning of that formula. Augustus was thinking about how to find an opportunity to snatch that formula from Rose Weiser. Everyone in the kingdom knew that King Landhar III had suddenly become rich, and the salaries of all the ministers had been raised 3 times. If he could give such a unique formula to the king, he would probably not be stingy with his rewards. Perhaps he could even earn a small profit after repaying the 900 holy relics that he owed Watson. Before he could decide on the time to act, a person with a heavy sword on his back suddenly walked into the class. That was the warrior department's teacher, Blue. Blue looked at Watson and smiled at him. After all, Watson had donated tens of millions of gold coins to the academy 2 days ago, and as Watson's teacher, Blue had also received recognition from the principal. After looking at Watson, he noticed Stella, who was standing not far from Watson. He was stunned for a moment. This person is not a student of the warrior department. Who is she? Forget it. Now is not the time to talk about that. Everyone, put down the things in your hands immediately. Stop what you are doing and follow me. His Majesty is about to arrive at the Holy Dragon Academy. You are fortunate today. His Majesty will select 90 recruits from the Dragon Knight Legion from our academy. Once you join the Dragon Knight Legion, even if you are just a student, you will still be able to enjoy your life as the kingdom's soldier. You will be paid 10 gold coins a month. Not only that, but you will also receive military equipment, provided by His Majesty, for free, and train with the strongest army in the kingdom. There is no requirement for strength. It all depends on your compatibility with the dragon. A dragon king will personally select the recruits who meet the requirements. In other words, it is not about having an advantage if you are stronger. Even if you are not strong, or even if you have no strength at all, you can still be chosen by a dragon. It is all up to your luck. All the students in the hall were in an uproar. Is that true? So the rumor that spread this morning is true. Can I be chosen too? Didn't you hear what the teacher said? As long as we have high compatibility with the dragon, we can do anything regardless of our strength. Even for an elite like Watson, it's useless if he doesn't have compatibility with any of the dragons. In other words, we might have a chance to surpass the kingdom's strongest genius. There is no limit to our strength and our class. It doesn't matter if you're a warrior, mage, archer, or priest. You can become a dragon knight. I hope that I'll be lucky enough to become one of the recruits. Some of the students were silently praying. Some of them had already stood up abruptly, their eyes shining as they prepared for the upcoming selection of recruits for the Dragon Knight Legion. Augustus was one of them, and his eyes were shining as he looked at Watson's reaction. He clenched his fists silently. Dragon Knight's recruitment? Interesting. If I am selected as a recruit and Watson is not selected, or if the dragon that Watson is matched with is not as good as mine, doesn't that mean I have won? Quote, Augustus had repeatedly lost to Watson. He was already mentally scarred. He needed a victory to prove himself. However, he knew that he was not a match for Watson. However, it was different. That time, it was not a competition of strength but luck. He did not believe that Watson could still defeat him. Watson, maybe I have a way to defeat you this time. As he decided to put aside the potion's formula, Augustus grinned, revealing a smug look. He had already imagined that he would successfully match a dragon and become a glorious dragon knight, and Watson would be eliminated. He would grovel at Augustus' feet with a dejected look on his face. Chapter 445. Didn't say that I couldn't do it. Fafnir, are you ready to choose the recruits for the Dragon Knight Legion? A carriage was driving slowly down the road from the palace to the Royal Academy. In the carriage, King Landhar III spoke to Fafnir, who was sitting opposite him. Fafnir was in a black gown. Her young face looked mature. Hearing King Landhar III's words, Fafnir patted a black box that was even bigger than her. We always keep our promises. Since I promised you to choose the recruits, I have come fully prepared. Last night, I asked our dragon lair to record the bloodline information of all the dragons who are willing to partner with the Dragon Knight. Now, that information is in this box. It recorded the bloodline information of thousands of dragons, which is equivalent to 1/3 of all the dragons. Quote, as expected of Lady Fafnir. You make me feel at ease. The probability of choosing one of the thousands of dragons to be a match for my people and me is still very high. A cloud of white mist spewed from his nose. Fafnir did not accept the praise. Instead, she pressed on the black top hat on her head. King Landhar III, I have fulfilled my promise to you. Now, it's your turn to fulfill your promise. Before I help the students carry out the test, I want a potion that can increase the fertility of dragons. If you can't do that, then it's all empty talk. I can break the treaty at any time. Don't worry, Watson is handling that for you. I believe that one day is enough for him to develop that potion. King Landhar III narrowed his eyes. There was something he did not say. Even if Watson could not produce the medicine, he could still get Seedy to prepare it. He would not bet on just one person. That was the quality of a king. I hope so. Fafnir did not say much. She placed her hand on the black box and looked out of the window. As her palm touched it, a dragon's roar suddenly came out of the huge black box. It shook faintly as if there were 1,000 dragons sealed inside. Similarly, King Landhar III also looked out of the window and muttered, "We're here." The entire warrior department had gathered in front of the academy's massive square. Even students from the mage, archers, and priest departments had gathered, as had students from previous years. They stood in formations according to their grades. The selection of Dragon Knight recruits had caused all the students in the Royal Academy to be in an uproar. If it were not for the fact that King Landhar III had clearly stated that only suitable people would be selected from among the students, the Academy teachers would probably be interested as well. After all, the Dragon Knights were an invincible legend. All the soldiers wanted to be part of that group. Tens of thousands of people stood in front of the gate as King Landhar III's carriage slowly drove up to it. He got down from the carriage with Fafnir. The three princes, Kiana, Olenna, and Rem, got down from their carriages as well. After everyone got down from the carriage, they did not enter the academy. At that moment, a few guards rushed toward them. The guards carried a massive throne on their shoulders and placed it at the gate. King Landhar III walked to the throne. After he sat down, a few guards respectfully stepped back. He was like a god sitting on the throne, exuding a power that people could not directly look at. The members of the Dragon Clan and the royal family stood beside him. They were like his contrast. Under normal circumstances, the Dragon Clan would not be inferior to humans, even if the person was the king. At that time, Fafnir and the others gave King Landhar III enough respect. The students understood that the rumors they had heard about the expansion of the Dragon Knight Legion were not false. If it were not true, why would the elites from the Dragon Clan be so obedient? With that thought in mind, everyone looked forward to the upcoming selection process for the Dragon Knight recruits. I'm sure you've heard that I want to expand the Dragon Knight Legion and select 90 students from the Royal Academy, where the pillars of the kingdom are gathered. As long as you meet the requirements and can satisfy our distinguished guests from the Dragon Clan, you can join the Dragon Knight Legion. Without further ado, I announce that the recruitment for the Dragon Knight Legion has officially begun. Before that, I would like to introduce you to the three people. The Dragon King, Lady Fafnir, from the Dragon Clan, and her subordinates, Lady Olenna and Lady Rem. King Landhar III sat on the high throne. His voice was like thunder, resounding throughout the entire academy. All the students who heard his voice showed a mixture of respect and excitement. As soon as his voice fell, the roar of a dragon suddenly came from the sky. 9 giant dragons of different colors flew in the sky, and 1 or 2 humans sat atop each of the dragons. Those 9 dragons soon arrived in the air above the Royal Academy. Then, they landed on the square. 10 experts wearing golden armor with giant dragons embroidered on them and holding long spears in their hands descended from the dragons. Even if King Landhar III did not introduce those 10 experts, everyone could recognize them at a glance. They were the Dragon Knights. After the Dragon Knights arrived, they held their heads high and puffed out their chests to demonstrate their powerful strength to the students. Their eyes were filled with disdain as they looked around them. Only one Dragon Knight did not look at anyone else after he landed. Instead, his gaze landed on Watson, carrying a faint trace of resentment. That made Watson somewhat puzzled, but he ignored it. What made him even more puzzled was another matter. Why does His Majesty bring that 3-meter-tall throne everywhere? Doesn't he feel tired? He has fused that throne for King Landhar III. Due to its huge size, it was not easy to bring it out of the palace. However, King Landhar III brought that throne with him at all times. It was more like he was showing off than protecting himself. While Watson was thinking about that, the discussions of the other students around him interrupted his thoughts. I can't believe His Majesty actually invited the Dragon Knight Legion to come here for the recruitment process. It's exciting to think of the opportunity to work with the strongest warriors of the kingdom in the future. Quote, everyone is here. Next, it's up to you, Lady Fafnir, to select the right person to go to the Dragon Lair, King Landhar III said to Fafnir, who was beside him. He was delighted with the aura of the Dragon Knights and the reactions of everyone there. Wait a moment, King Landhar III. Did you forget something? Fafnir, who had come down from the carriage, was carrying a box that was even larger than herself. When she heard that, she glanced at King Landhar III. She was a little displeased that King Landhar III had to carry the God King's throne of the commandment when he went out. She understood that King Landhar III was deliberately showing off before her, but she did not care. She only cared about the potion in the treaty that she had mentioned to King Landhar III. Well, if you did not remind me, I really did almost forget about it. King Landhar III spoke in a seemingly casual manner. He looked at Watson, who looked different from the others in the crowd. His expression was calm and even a little leisurely. He laughed. Watson, come here for a moment. I wonder if you have completed the task that I gave you yesterday. His voice was not loud, but everyone could hear him clearly. That caused many people to cast curious gazes at Watson, secretly wondering what task the king had given Watson. As if sensing everyone's doubts, King Landhar III said, yesterday, I ordered you to develop a potion that can increase the fertility of the dragon clan. You've agreed to it, so you should not disappoint me, right? It's all thanks to you that I was able to sign a treaty with the Dragon Clan to expand the Dragon Knight. If it weren't for you, the Dragon Clan would not have agreed to my request so easily. Later, if you develop a potion that satisfies the Dragon Clan, I'll definitely reward you handsomely. Not only me, everyone here must thank you too. What, so it's all thanks to Watson that the king could sign a treaty to expand the Dragon Knights? The students looked at Watson, their eyes filled with disbelief. Feeling the burning gazes from all directions, Watson braced himself and walked forward. He went before King Landhar III and bowed respectfully. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. After you gave me that task yesterday, I went back and studied it carefully. As I expected, developing a potion that can increase the fertility of the Dragon Clan is not that simple. The human king had agreed to the Dragon Clan's request. He even promised that Watson would improve the situation in our Dragon Clan. In the end, he failed to do that. He wanted the Dragon Clan to cooperate with and help him expand the Dragon Knight Legion without the potion? Lady Fafnir even informed the rest of our compatriots to make preparations overnight. Do you know that it is a sin to deceive us? Before Watson could finish his words, Rem, who was standing behind Fafnir, snorted and spoke in dissatisfaction. She had long been dissatisfied with King Landhar III. A mere human had dared to coerce them to sign such a humiliating treaty. As for Watson, even though he could upgrade a gold-tier weapon to platinum-tier instantly, she did not have any hope for him to create a potion that could increase the dragon's fertility rate. Different professions were like mountains separated by more mountains. The potion-making industry and the forging industry were different. Watson might have done some research on weapons, but it was not enough for potions. If a potion that could improve the dragon's reproductive ability were so easily obtained, the Dragon Clan would not remain so little in numbers. King Landhar III, it seems like you have lied to me. Do you remember what I said yesterday? If you lied to me, I would break the treaty. Even if you use a Starlight tier weapon to keep me here forcefully, it will be useless. If I die here, the Holy Dragon Kingdom will become the Dragon Clan's enemy from today onward. If you can't give me a reasonable answer, then we will not continue with the recruitment process for the Dragon Knight Legion. Fafnir tightened her grip on the huge black box. She was also furious, but as a Dragon King, she did not show it clearly. If King Landhar III were just boasting and toying with her, then she and the Holy Dragon Kingdom would fight to their deaths. Did they have to postpone the recruitment process because Watson did not develop the potion that the Dragon Clan wanted? If that's the case, then we have come here in vain. The group of students was disappointed. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. They saw the hope of becoming a Dragon Knight, and then they were told that the selection might be suspended. How could they accept that? Watson, aren't you the strongest genius in the Holy Dragon Kingdom? It should not be too difficult for you to make a potion, right? Just treat it as if it's for us and work hard to make it. Some students started shouting at Watson. As soon as one person's voice fell, another started to jeer at him. That's right, Watson, you did not get the title of the strongest genius in the kingdom for nothing. You're so powerful, and you even displayed all sorts of abilities during the competition. How can a mere potion be difficult for you? Furthermore, I heard that you've just displayed a potion that can turn people into platinum-tier angels. Even the Abador family's potion makers can't stop praising you. That means you have researched the potion, right? One voice after another rang out, and very quickly, it turned into a sound wave. No one wanted to listen to him. A potion that can turn a person into a platinum-tier angel. What is that? King Landhar III was already a little disappointed after hearing Watson's words. He wondered if Watson's fusion ability could not produce a potion that met the conditions. He was prepared to get Seedy to help him with Fafnir's potion. However, when he heard the student's words, he was somewhat at a loss. When did Watson display a potion that could turn a person into a platinum-tier angel? How did he not know that? It could turn a person into a platinum-tier angel? The effect of that potion must have been much stronger than the potion to increase the fertility of the dragons. If he could create such a powerful potion, why would Watson not be able to develop a simple potion for the dragons? Did he want to conceal his ability? King Landhar III had a dangerous look on his face. He knew Watson all too well. When he had asked Watson to fuse and create weapons for him, Watson had tried to stop him. He had to trick Antonio and Reed into helping him to persuade Watson. The young man had no choice but to agree to his request. Was it the same situation? Watson, why didn't I hear about this potion that could turn a person into a platinum-tier angel? King Landhar III asked with a serious expression. Your Majesty, I didn't make that potion. It exists, but I discovered it in some ancient ruins. I'm not very proficient in potion making, so just because I have such a potion doesn't mean that I can make a potion that can increase the dragon's fertility rate. Watson responded to the inquiry humbly. Is that so? Where is that ancient ruin? I will send an army to explore it and see if we can get the same potion. Your Majesty, I'm sorry. That ancient ruin had already collapsed after I discovered it. I'm afraid we can't enter it any longer. Really? King Landhar III sneered. He was sure that Watson was making up nonsense. He knew how many ruins were in the kingdom and where those ruins were. Such a mysterious potion could not have been found in a ruin that he did not know about. Very well, I will ask you about the potion later. For now, I only want to know one thing. Do you really not know much about potions and can't make a potion that can help the dragons to increase their fertility rate? If that's the case, you will be severely punished if you fail to complete the task I gave you. I will strip you of the title as the kingdom's strongest genius, and you can spend the rest of your life in prison. Many of the students gasped after hearing King Landhar III's words. The most severe punishment in the kingdom was the death penalty. The second harshest punishment was life imprisonment. It looked like Watson would be imprisoned if he did not fulfill King Landhar III's request. Was that not too severe? Even though they wanted Watson to develop that potion, they knew that they could not force him. Watson could not produce it even if he tried to do it, not even if they hacked Watson into pieces. It seemed like the Dragon Knight recruitment process would end without a start. Many people felt regretful. Of course, not everyone felt sorry. On the contrary, some people were very excited, such as Augustus. So, His Majesty has given Watson such a task. If he cannot complete it and is thrown into prison, does that mean that I won't have to see his hateful face again in the future, and I won't have to return the 900 holy relics that I owed him? Augustus pondered that. His eyes lit up as he leapt out of the crowd. He said in a clear voice, Your Majesty, Watson is very knowledgeable about potions. I saw him write down the formula that can turn a person into a platinum-tier angel and hand it to the Abador family. Now he says he can't produce a potion to increase a dragon's fertility. I think he's deliberately hiding it. I think so too. I saw Watson use potion to heal people. The potion he created could even make people's limbs grow back. I saw it too. My uncle's sister's brother's son's friend used that method to recover from his broken arm. I even heard that Watson could heal a dead person. A few students on good terms with the Campbell family echoed the same sentiments. When have I ever done such a thing? Watson's mouth twitched. He glanced at Augustus and those students. Sure, he had used a potion to help a person with a broken limb, but it was ridiculous to say that he could heal the dead. He knew that Augustus had said that deliberately. He wanted to make it even more difficult for him to back down. He wanted to get him killed. Let's talk about a nearer example. Master Antonio's strength was permanently fixed at platinum tier because of the Spring of Life. However, Master Antonio's strength had progressed to diamond tier after he went to the border. Watson was the one who broke the Spring of Life's curse. With the support of his underlings, Augustus became more confident in his words. Many people in the kingdom knew about that. Everyone knew that Antonio had become stronger after his trip to the border. No one knew what method he had used. Many people guessed that Antonio might have used his extraordinary wisdom to obtain some powerful treasure to counter the curse. Augustus did not know about that. However, at that moment, he could pin it on Watson. Come on, Watson, let us see what else you can do. If you can't make the potion, you will be thrown to prison for life. Augustus's expression became sinister. King Landhar III, sitting on the throne, became impatient and asked, Watson, I will give you two choices. You can either make the potion or be imprisoned for life. You can choose. Watson sighed and said calmly, all right, since you found out, I won't pretend anymore. Indeed, the reason Master Antonio was able to break the curse of the Spring of Life is not unrelated to me. I only said that it's very difficult to create a potion to increase the dragon's fertility rate. I didn't say that I couldn't do it. I haven't finished speaking yet. Why are you so anxious? Chapter 446. The Golden Lust Poison. Watson, if you say you can do it, show us how you made that potion. Do not worry, I will assist you in paying for the materials required for that potion, whatever it may be. When Augustus heard Watson's promise, his expression became increasingly sinister. He was afraid that if Watson disagreed, he would face King Landhar III's punishment. Regardless of who it was, forcing Watson to develop a difficult-to-achieve potion would be a difficult task. Watson was also the kingdom's strongest genius. Even if King Landhar III imprisoned Watson, he might be released after a while. It would have been different if Watson had made the promise in front of so many people. Watson could not go back on his word. If he broke his word, it would be a slap in the face to both himself and King Landhar III. King Landhar III might increase the punishment in his rage, and Watson's penalty might even change from imprisonment to death. Augustus also had another reason. Let Watson develop the potion on the spot, avoiding the possibility of Watson seeking assistance from others. In other words, he had effectively blocked Watson's only exit. Are you certain, Augustus, that you want to bear the entire cost of my refining the potion? To Augustus' surprise, Watson remained expressionless after hearing his words. Instead, he made a strange expression as he spoke. His heart thumped as a result of that reaction. He had a nagging feeling something terrible was going to happen to him. However, because he had already said it, there was no turning back. All he could do was straighten his back and nod. That is right, I will cover the costs. I am a Campbell. I can afford a single potion. However, I advise you not to play tricks and deliberately obtain some difficult-to-find herbs to delay time. Even if Watson purposefully raised the potion price, he could still bear the exorbitant cost. At most, he could get those medicinal herbs and sell them. However, if Watson were unable to produce the potion, he would perish. My request is simple. I will not purposefully make things difficult for young Master Augustus by asking for rare medicinal herbs. I am only interested in one ingredient, and that is gold coins. I will need about 10 billion gold coins to create a potion that will increase the Dragon Clan's fertility rate. Watson gestured with his fingers. 10 billion gold coins? Watson, are you serious? Augustus' face darkened. He had never heard of a potion that cost so much money. In addition, what potion was made with gold coins? Watson stated that all he needed was gold coins. Did he want to turn gold coins into potions? Watson must have been purposefully making things difficult for him. The others also shook their heads. When they learned that Watson could concoct a potion, they had high hopes. After all, Watson was the strongest genius in the kingdom, so it was not surprising that he could deliver some outstanding performances, but their hopes were dashed. Even if Augustus could produce 10 billion gold coins, Watson would not be able to convert the money into a potion. Even if Watson melted a large number of gold coins to make the potion, who would dare to drink it? Even Rose and Stella could not help but shake their heads at that point. I know a few potions that can boost fertility, but they only work on humans and have negligible effects. They can't possibly work on dragons. What are our options? Rose muttered angrily. Watson did not blame her for losing the blessings of the gods and demons potion. He gave her the formula instead. Rose had regarded Watson as her benefactor. She also saw hope in the formula Watson gave her. If Watson was imprisoned, she could no longer produce the same potion as the formula required water from the spring of life. The formula would be useless in her hands. It has not been easy for the Abador family to rise to power, and the kingdom's potion-making industry has the potential to thrive. Will all of it end before it begins? Stella had a glum expression on her face as well. She gave Augustus a ferocious stare before sighing. Augustus has always had a proud and domineering reputation. I used to think it was normal for a genius to have a bad temper. That guy appears to be a jerk now. Watson is the same. If he could not make the potion, he should have admitted to it instead of agreeing to it. If he failed, he might suffer more than imprisonment. Even the Abador family could not think of a way. Watson, who had obtained the previous formula from the ancient ruins, was unlikely to do any better. A naive youth. Despite his reputation as a genius, he is a childish idiot. It is a good thing he can't refine the potion. Initially, I was opposed to His Majesty's plan to get more Dragon Knights. Allowing the students to train with the Dragon Knights will only weaken us. A Dragon Knight snorted coldly when he saw Watson demanding 10 billion gold coins. Julius, you appear to harbor a great deal of resentment toward that genius. I am curious how he irritated you, another Dragon Knight asked. When questioned, the knight's expression changed. After a brief pause, he said, my mount, a thunderclawed dragon, was killed a few days ago by a platinum-tier elite in the kingdom. Watson was responsible for it. They say that my dragon was cooked and eaten by him and his friends. Dragons were very important to the Dragon Knights. Losing a dragon was no different than losing a soldier. Julius was in a similar situation. He was the Dragon Knight's vice-captain. His thunderclawed dragon was powerful, and he was always proud of that fact. Not only was he in danger of being expelled from the Dragon Knights since he had lost his dragon, but the loss of his long-lost companion also saddened him. A normal person would be sad if their dog died, let alone a dragon who had shared life and death situations with him. He despised Watson even more. He would have rushed forward and strangled him to death with his own hands if it had not been for the Dragon Knight's dignity. So Watson killed your dragon. No wonder you glared at him the moment you walked in. Still, Watson is the kingdom's proclaimed genius. Do not be too upset if he ate your dragon. It is not a good idea to be enemies with a genius. After his companion realized what was going on, he consoled Julius, whose face was tense as he snorted coldly. The kingdom's most powerful genius? He will soon become a corpse if he can't complete the potion. While everyone else was thinking that, Watson's face remained calm as he pointed his fingers at Augustus and asked, Augustus, my conditions are not difficult, right? It is nothing more than gold coins. You can find them throughout the kingdom. Or are you saying you lied when you said you would cover the entire cost of the potion? Lying in front of His Majesty is not acceptable. Who said I was lying, Watson? I can cover the expenses, but your terms are ridiculous. What potion is created with gold coins? Augustus could not stop himself from retorting. Watson said, what you do not know does not imply that it does not exist. To achieve the desired effect, the potion purifies anything with medicinal properties. Gold, as a precious metal, has medicinal qualities too. Perhaps you can make the potion without my help? Watson, don't waste time. 10 billion gold coins is an excessive amount. I don't have that amount at the moment. Since you mentioned using gold coins to make the potion, I will give you 1,000 gold coins for now. Let's see if you can concoct any potion. Then we will know if you are telling the truth. No, when I say 10 billion gold coins, I mean 10 billion gold coins. Not even a single gold coin less. If I get even one less, it will be your fault if you cannot create a potion. Your fault, Watson. Augustus was so enraged that his lips quivered when he saw Watson waving his hand and saying such things. Okay, let's stop arguing. Since Augustus can't pay the 10 billion gold coins, I will pay for it. If Watson successfully refines a potion that appeases the Dragon Clan, the Campbell family will owe me 10 billion gold coins. If Watson can't complete the task, then I will double the punishment. That should suffice, right? King Landhar III spoke. Then, Watson and Augustus both nodded in agreement. King Landhar III waved his hand as soon as his voice fell silent. Guards immediately ran toward the palace. An army led by Hone appeared in front of the Royal Academy, escorting a plethora of carriages. The carriage's curtain was lifted when they arrived at the academy, revealing the gold coins inside. All of the carriages were brimming with gold. The golden light reflected the sunlight, blinding nearly everyone's vision. Although those were 10 billion gold coins, King Landhar III acted as if nothing had happened. He did not think that wealth was important at that point in time. The number of gold coins astounded the people of the Holy Dragon Kingdom and the 3 women from the Dragon Clan. They could not stop themselves from swallowing their saliva. All of the gold coins you requested are here, Your Majesty. 10 billion gold coins, not one less. Hone approached King Landhar III and knelt on one knee. Good job. King Landhar III nodded, and then he looked at Watson. Watson, the gold coins you requested have arrived. You can begin now. Watson, you are so done. Augustus sneered at the other youth. Watson must have requested 10 billion gold coins on purpose to make things difficult for him and force him to retreat. However, King Landhar III had already sent for the money, and it was too late for Watson to back down. The crowd shook their heads as well. They did not believe Watson could use those gold coins to refine a potion. Ignoring Augustus and the other people on the field, Watson approached the carriages and nodded. Not bad, it really is 10 billion gold coins. I can use them to refine the potion for the dragons. Watson walked unhesitatingly to a carriage and removed a gold coin from it. Then, in his palm, a black sticky substance appeared and gradually wrapped around the gold coin. What is Watson up to? Someone was perplexed by the scene. People around him shook their heads. I am not sure. I don't know about the black substance oozing from Watson's body. But it makes me feel uneasy. He can't be fusing that black substance with the gold coin to cause some strange reaction, right? Augustus crossed his arms and said calmly, Watson is really unwilling to give up. He still desires a final battle. Okay, I will sit back and watch his clown act. No matter what Watson did, he would be unable to turn the gold coin into a potion that met the Dragon Clan's requirements. The majority of people agreed with that point. When King Landhar III saw the black liquid oozing from Watson's body, he was taken aback. That thing gives me a familiar feeling, he muttered to himself, his eyes wide with disbelief. It is very similar to the god's remains that I gave to Samuel. It should be in Samuel's body. How did Watson get it? Watson wrapped the gold coin in the black substance and said, Fusion system, activate. Whoosh! A bright light flashed, and the gold coin and the black substance instantly fused, forming a ball of golden liquid. Congratulations, Master, on successfully fusing the gold coin and the lust poison to create a golden lust poison. The information about the golden liquid appeared in Watson's eyes as the system notification sounded in his ear. Platinum tier poison. Golden lust poison. Effects. The instinct to give birth. After taking it, you will lose all other consciousness and only have the instinct to give birth. Unlimited reproduction. Continuously giving birth to offsprings that have your bloodline. Every time you give birth to an offspring, your strength will be consumed. The effect lasts for 1 day. Side effects. Backlash. After taking that medicine, your mind will be tainted, and your intelligence will drop. Not bad. That is exactly what I am looking for. Watson smiled contentedly as he held the golden potion in his hand. The lust poison was refined from Asmodeus' bodily fluids, the monster known to have the great sin of lust. It was created by the god of poison, who had combined various poisons to make it. As Hell's watchdog, Asmodeus possessed the natural ability to charm. Creatures charmed by Asmodeus would succumb to their mating instinct. Asmodeus was a monster that could mate with various other monsters, including plants, stones, and other non-living creatures, to give birth to offspring all year round, which was why it was known as the Beast of Lust. Watson, who had fused the god's remains, had naturally mastered it as well. That poison was extremely dangerous to humans, but it did have the potential to increase their reproductive ability. It was entirely in line with King Landhar III's requirements for the potion he wanted. Initially, he had asked the Severed Fingers gang to prepare some medicinal herbs that could increase the human's reproductive rate. He had intended to purify and fuse them to get them to have an effect on the dragons. However, Augustus had tried to harm him, so there was no need for him to stand on ceremony. With that in mind, he turned around and said, "Your Majesty, the potion has been created." Augustus yelled angrily, "What exactly do you mean, Watson? Didn't you say it would cost 10 billion gold coins to create the potion, and nothing less would suffice? And you said it would work? I am not sure if that potion will work. It will be a waste of everyone's time if it does not work." Watson only used 1 coin to make the potion. He did not even require so many gold coins. He knew that Watson was seeking vengeance on him. Augustus is right. We need to find someone to test the potion to see if it works or not. You will be the one to put it to the test. Watson used his combat aura to grab the potion and bring it to Augustus. Augustus' expression changed. "What if it's poisonous, Watson? Do you really want to use me for the experiment? What if I die? Why don't you test it? You created a potion that boosts fertility. You want me to find someone to test it out right away after I take it? Are you serious?" Watson explained calmly, "I am not joking. You will understand the potion's effect when you drink it. I make the potion in a very intuitive manner. That is something I am very certain of. Furthermore, the experiment is only for those who do not believe me. Let me ask you now, Augustus, do you believe what I said?" Augustus' eyes twitched. He knew what Watson meant. He could not doubt Watson if he said he believed it, and Watson would pass the test. If he said he did not believe it, he would be the one to put it to the test. "Fine. How do I test it?" Augustus snatched the golden potion from Watson and popped it into his mouth. He did not believe Watson would be so bold as to poison him in front of the king and the students of the Royal Academy. Furthermore, his body had already been transformed into a collection of platinum-tier weapons. Even the most lethal poison could not harm him. Augustus' expression changed as the golden lust poison entered his body. He felt as if the world around him had become hazy, as if a layer of pink gauze had covered it. Beautiful female figures flashed through his mind. Immediately after that, an unexplainable fire appeared in his lower abdomen, prompting him to vent. What is going on? Augustus had lost the joy of being a man due to the body transformation, but his body appeared to have returned to its pre-transformation state at that moment. Even the vile Watson in front of him looked attractive. "Watson, I took your potion. Where's the intuitive performance that you mentioned? Why haven't I noticed it?" Augustus sneered at Watson, despite his discomfort. "Do not worry, the effect will kick in soon." Watson appeared at ease. "It is almost time," he said after reciting 3 numbers. Augustus, who had a stern look on his face, suddenly looked painful and broke out in cold sweat after hearing Watson's voice. Then, out of nowhere, a large hole exploded from his chest to his lower abdomen, and an egg the size of a human head flew outward. What in the world is that? Augustus went into a trance as he stared at the crack in his lower abdomen. Why was there an egg in his stomach? More than 10 eggs flew out of his stomach while he was in a daze. He was laying eggs like Emperor Cluck. Soon, countless eggs piled up around him. Chapter 447. Unable to become a dragon knight. What is going on? What caused Augustus to lay so many eggs? Is that the potion that can make a person more fertile? It has risen far too rapidly. No creature can keep giving birth indefinitely. It is just too ridiculous. The students stared at Augustus in disbelief, who was surrounded by white eggs. Initially, they did not think highly of Watson's potion. After all, Watson had only used 2 things to create that potion. The first was a black substance, and the second was a gold coin. It was difficult to imagine how those 2 things could have such a powerful effect when combined. Do not get too excited, everyone. At the moment, Augustus is only laying eggs. We have no idea what is inside those eggs. If some strange things are found inside the eggs, it is not enough to call it a potion that can increase a person's fertility, someone said. Many people around him snapped back to their senses and nodded as soon as he finished speaking. If what came out of the eggs were not humans but something else, it would prove that Watson's potion could not increase a person's fertility but rather one that could allow a person to lay eggs. Just as those thoughts entered everyone's minds, cracks appeared on the surface of the eggs surrounding Augustus. The eggs shattered with a cracking sound, revealing the creature within. It was a human infant. It had soft red hair on the top of its head, similar to Augustus. The rest cracked open as well, and human babies appeared one after the other. There were both boys and girls, all of whom resembled Augustus. Some of the babies began to crawl on the ground as they appeared, while others clenched their fists. They cried loudly. Everyone in the room was taken aback by what they saw. They were humans. Augustus had given birth to human babies. That was far too shocking. He gave birth without mating after consuming that potion. Augustus, a man, had given birth. Without a doubt, Watson's potion was an outstanding achievement in the kingdom's history. It could produce many babies in a short period. If it happened during a war, that action would almost certainly ensure that they had an endless supply of soldiers, enough to drag their enemies down. Everyone was stunned. "Do you think the potion is safe, Lady Fafnir?" Rem stared blankly at Augustus, who crawled away from the babies when the eggshells broke. She gasped. She was astounded by the potion's effect as well. Human potions were less effective against dragons. They had found a potion that increased humans' fertility rate. However, it could not change the fact that there were fewer dragons in the community. That potion was unique. Augustus laid eggs as quickly as a machine gun. Even if the effect on dragons was only a fraction of that, it was enough for them to multiply the number of dragons. That potion appears to have some unintended consequences. Fafnir stroked her chin when she heard that. Others noticed how quickly Augustus had laid eggs, but she was concentrating on the young man himself. Augustus's body twitched every time an egg was laid, and some of his energy was diverted. Augustus' body had many platinum-tier weapons, and there was a platinum-colored glow all over him. However, the platinum-tier weapons on Augustus' body had dimmed. They were degrading to gold-tier, and even their hardness was deteriorating. As a result, small cracks appeared on the surface. I think that potion is akin to dividing one's strength and injecting it into one's offspring. Even though it can greatly improve one's fertility rate, the person who gives birth will have their strength depleted as a result of the birth. Other people examined what was on the surface, but the elites like Fafnir explored the essence. Was it worth it to sacrifice a dragon's life for the sake of thousands of newborn dragons? The answer was yes, because those newborn dragons would be platinum tier when they grew to adulthood. Even if the sacrifice was a diamond tier dragon, it was still a necessary sacrifice if it meant the race's prosperity. There was no doubt that the potion Watson was working on at the time had exceeded her expectations. King Landhar III was still sitting on the throne. His face was expressionless, and no one could see the corner of his mouth twitching. Watson is extraordinary. When Watson developed the potion to increase one's fertility rate, he intended to test it on a few mice or have Fafnir use spatial magic to teleport to the dragon clan and give it to a few pregnant dragons. He wanted to see if he could have a few more dragon offspring. Who would have guessed he could get Augustus to drink that potion? He also did not expect Augustus, who had consumed the potion, to transform into an egg-laying machine. Watson's potion had met the king's requirements. To be more specific, it had met his needs. He was certain that the black substance Watson had used to make the potion was the remains of the god of poison, which he had given to Samuel. Watson's chances of creating the poison were high if he used that thing. I am curious how Watson obtained the god's remains. Is it possible that he learned about my contact with Samuel? It appears that I should have a conversation with Samuel. Let's not get into that. Watson was pushed to this point. He chose to use that method rather than refine the potion. Is it possible that he is not very good at making potions? Or is it possible that he is unwilling to refine the potion and is using this method to exact revenge on us? Watson had turned the Dragon Knight recruitment process into an egg-laying competition. Augustus might not be able to raise his head in the kingdom ever again. After all, a normal person would feel humiliated if they laid eggs in front of the king, tens of thousands of Royal Academy students, and the Dragon Clan, let alone a genius like Augustus. Augustus was already numb at that point. He stood in his original position in a daze, allowing eggs to fly out of the large hole in his chest. His body slid to the ground like a baby. He had no response to that. He even drooled a little. He was utterly perplexed. Watson's golden lust poison appeared to be a fertility potion, but it was also a lethal poison. The purpose of that poison is for the god of poison to fight against other gods, divide the power in the opponent's body, and turn into a defenseless infant. At the same time, it would reduce the person's intelligence, making them easier to kill. Augustus could barely withstand the corrosion of the platinum-tier poison because he had many platinum-tier weapons. However, as the power in his body was dispersed by the eggs, he could no longer resist the poison. Augustus had devolved into a moron. He would only be able to recover in a day. Your Majesty, are you pleased with the potion I created? Ignoring Augustus, Watson turned his head to look at King Landhar III. Well, it's not up to me. The Dragon Clan should decide it. I'm also curious about their thoughts on Watson's potion. King Landhar III turned toward Fafnir and the other two ladies beside her. That is correct. Overall, the potion met the criteria. King Landhar III, you have kept your word. The Dragon Clan will be generous with you. Fafnir nodded and set the massive black box in her right hand down on the ground. The huge black box suddenly cracked open and gradually opened, revealing what was inside. A crystal stone tablet was hidden inside the massive black box. Ancient characters were engraved on the stone tablet. Each character shone uniquely. 7 different colors of light twined themselves around the stone tablet. It morphed into various Dragon Clan phantoms, and a powerful aura spread in all directions. Please allow me to introduce this to everyone. That stone tablet is the Dragon Clan's valuable asset. It is called Dragon Totem, and it is a peak diamond tier tool. Its purpose is to keep track of information about all the dragons. The Dragon Totem will have complete information about your dragon once your real name is engraved on it. It can even summon a dragon's projection to fight the enemy. Of course, the totem is widely used in the Dragon Clan as a tool to recruit a Dragon Knight. The Dragon Totem records the information of thousands of dragons at the time. Later, if those recruits place their palms on the Dragon Totem, the totem will reveal how well they match each dragon. Names with 100% match to a dragon will get to become a Dragon Knight. Fafnir looked around as she spoke. The students looked excited and held their breath. They knew that Fafnir's words meant that the recruitment of new Dragon Knights would continue, and it was due to Watson's discovery of a potion that allowed the dragons to breed indefinitely. Many people looked at Watson with grateful eyes as they reflected on that. No one paid attention to Augustus, who kept laying eggs. Even if Augustus continued to lay eggs, it would not have an impact on the recruitment process. King Landhar III waved his hand quietly and ordered Hone to lead the army in carrying Augustus away. As a result, Augustus lost the right to join the test. It was unclear whether Augustus would regret it when he awoke. Perhaps he would be unhappy that he would want to harm Watson. That is all I have to say about it. Who will be the first to take the test? No one in the Royal Academy moved after Fafnir's voice fell silent. Everyone's attention was drawn to Watson. Watson had created the potion that had earned them the right to take the test, so it was only fitting that he should be the first to do so. I will take the lead. Watson walked to the front of the Dragon Totem, feeling the gazes from all directions, and looked at the 2-meter-long stone tablet in front of him. He reached out his right hand and gently touched the stone tablet's surface. Watson felt as if his environment had changed the moment his palm touched the surface of the stone tablet. A never-ending ring-shaped mountain range stretched out in front of him. Thousands of massive dragons soared through the mountain range. Those dragons were made of gold and had 4 long horns on their heads. There were also dark-winged dragons with 6 massive wings on their backs and sword-length tails. Several dragons roared and turned their heads toward Watson after he barged in. Waves of dragon power began to flow into Watson's body, attempting to fuse with the energy there, but they were entirely absorbed by the source of chaos elemental magic in his body as soon as they did. Watson opened his eyes a split second later. The Dragon Totem monument in front of him erupted in a blaze of glory. The dragon race characters twisted and intertwined, forming a massive zero. What does that mean? A Royal Academy student observed the scene with interest. Could Watson have matched with a very powerful dragon after witnessing the totem explode with such a bright light? It was being discussed by others as well. Fafnir's expression became unsightly as she looked at the totem during the discussion. I am sorry, Watson, your compatibility with the dragon within the totem is 0, which means that there is no dragon that matches you, and you do not meet the requirements to become a Dragon Knight. What? When it was revealed that Watson lacked the necessary qualifications, the crowd erupted. However, they had been told that the recruitment process had nothing to do with strength. It was all by chance. However, they did not believe Watson would lose the selection. After all, Watson's talent was exceptional. There should be a plethora of dragons who could be compatible with him. I had not expected Watson to be ineligible to become a dragon knight. As one might expect, there are some things that geniuses are not particularly good at. Watson's match is 0. The likelihood of us successfully matching to a dragon is probably low. It appears that the process is more difficult than we anticipated. Some people in the audience mocked Watson, while others were concerned for their own safety. Watson, I promised you yesterday that I would prepare a massive dragon for you. Furthermore, you successfully created a potion that meets my needs. Even if you do not qualify to become a dragon knight, I will still give you a dragon. Fafnir appeared helpless. She did not seem to think Watson would be a match for any of the dragons. After all, there were thousands of dragons in the dragon totem. Watson was no match for any of the dragons, so the chances were slim. Wait a minute, can a person become a dragon knight if he is not a match for a dragon? Even if Watson created a potion that increases fertility that allowed the kingdom to sign a new treaty with the dragons? Before the others could respond, a man's voice echoed after Fafnir's voice fell. Watson could not help but look at the speaker. The man had long purple hair that hung down his shoulders. He was attractive, but his brows and lips were very thin. He appeared to be around 30 years old. He had a nagging feeling that the man knew who he was. After some thought, he realized that man was the one who had been staring at him with a vicious gaze since he arrived at the academy. Who are you? The dragons decide whether or not you can become a dragon knight. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. Fafnir cast an unhappy glance in the direction of the man. My name is Julius, and I am the Dragon Knight's vice-captain. I used to have a thunder-clawed dragon as my partner. Julius raised his head and puffed out his chest, unafraid of Fafnir's gaze. Perhaps you believe that the dragon is the most critical part of the Dragon Knight, but I think that both the dragon and the knight are equally important. The dragon's power can't be wielded without a good knight. After all, a dragon knight's most powerful ability is to fuse with a dragon. Watson is a genius without the ability to match with a dragon. Do not even consider making him a dragon knight. Give the dragon to someone more worthy. Watson was not enraged in the face of Julius's mockery. I wonder if you have any basis for saying that one can't be a dragon knight if without a match to a dragon? He asked calmly. Cast the dragon fusion spell. Let Watson examine my foundation. Julius clapped heartily. A member of the Dragon Knights appeared from behind him. He had a green dragon surrounded by a lightning-shaped storm. It was a platinum-tier storm dragon. Dragon fusion, activate. The Dragon Knight quickly activated his ability in response to Julius's command. His and the dragon's massive bodies turned to light simultaneously, fusing into a 2-meter-tall draconid. The draconid's body was covered in green scales, and its green hair was encased in lightning. It floated through the air in an anti-gravity fashion. Several storms appeared faintly behind the draconid, and the dragon's shadow could be seen in the storms. The draconid's aura was initially only at peak gold tier, and his dragon was at peak platinum tier. However, after the fusion, the draconid's aura instantly reached platinum tier, and it was on the verge of diamond tier. Watson, did you notice that? The dragon fusion is a draconid's secret weapon. If you want to use that skill, you must be 100% compatible with the dragon. The draconid's abilities will be multiplied several times after the fusion, and they will retain the strength of a dragon and the agility of a human. Take, for example, the Dragon Knight who is sitting next to me. His current strength is almost insurmountable against anyone below the diamond tier. Watson had a thoughtful expression on his face while Julius was explaining it to him. He thought the so-called dragon fusion was similar to the druid's secret transformation skill, but there was a significant difference. A druid could use transformation to gain strength from a contracted beast, whereas the dragon fusion allowed a person to become one with the dragon. That was a far more powerful move than the druid's skill. Do you see the power of a dragon knight, Watson? You will never be able to become a dragon knight if you have eaten dragon meat. My companion, the Thunderclawed dragon, died as a result of your actions. Being unable to become a dragon knight is your divine curse. It is your punishment. Julius's face lit up with delight when he reprimanded Watson. His words elicited a harsh response from the crowd. Watson had eaten dragon meat before, so that incited a feud with the Dragon Knights. Did the dragon meat come from the Dragon Knight's dragons? He is far too daring. It looked like Watson could not become a Dragon Knight. Some people sighed in sorrow. They realized Watson could not become a Dragon Knight after learning he had eaten dragon meat. Even if Watson were compatible with a dragon, the Dragon Clan would not agree to such a person becoming a Dragon Knight. Chapter 448. He has a dragon? Is that a good idea, Vice Captain Julius? While everyone was lamenting Watson's inability to become a Dragon Knight, the member who had assisted Julius in performing the dragon fusion had deactivated the fusion. He approached Julius and asked him that quietly. Julius only saw a hazy outline and tense eyes when he looked in the direction of King Landhar III. He did not see any movement from the king. It does not matter, he said, gritting his teeth. That is excellent news. Watson may be a rare genius in the kingdom, but I want to let him know that no matter how talented he is, there are some things he cannot do. He will never be able to become a Dragon Knight. His Majesty made no comment about what I did. You do not have to be concerned. If the king blamed him for disrupting the order of the selection, he would take the initiative to accept it. He would be happy as long as he did not let Watson become a Dragon Knight and avenge the death of his Thunderclawed dragon. It appears that I have no chance of becoming a Dragon Knight. Since that is the case, I will not waste my time here. Watson was not enraged by Julius's words. Instead, he shrugged and turned to walk toward the crowd as if he had given up on the test. Julius, who had been yelling at him earlier, became even more agitated. Watson, you are quite self-aware. You immediately gave up after learning that you had no chance of becoming a Dragon Knight. However, do not expect an easy resolution. You will also be severely punished because you eat my Thunderclawed dragon. Oh, I am curious as to how you intend to punish me. Watson cocked his head. The death of the Thunderclawed dragon had something to do with him. After all, it was Basher who did it to curry favor with him. As a result, he could understand Julius's resentment. He did not refute it right away, but Julius had crossed the line. I want you to erect a tombstone for my Thunderclawed dragon and then go to his grave every year to kneel and pay your respects. That will at least make your sin feel a little less heinous. That is what sinners who eat dragon meat should do. Vice Captain Julius, you appear to have misunderstood something. I am sorry for eating your Thunderclawed dragon, but I don't think that eating dragon meat is a sin. Humans can eat chicken, duck, and fish, so why can't we eat dragon meat? As a race living in this world, it is either eat and be eaten. It is also not uncommon for dragons to eat humans. The dragons kill each other too. Are you going to put a stop to all of this? Similar to Watson's previous life, some dog owners did not eat dog meat and opposed others eating dog meat too. That was a kind of moral kidnapping. Julius could not say anything as he pointed angrily at Watson. He desperately wanted to refute it, but he realized Watson was correct. Nature's choice was to eat and to be eaten. There was also a situation in the Dragon Clan where the stronger dragons ate the weak dragons. He did not care about the Dragon Clan's internal affairs. He only cared about Watson, which obviously did not make sense. There was no other choice. He could only look at Fafnir and the other two dragons. Members of the Dragon Clan, Watson spoke such words in front of you. Are you putting up with it? Julius had no way of forcing Watson to confess. In that case, he would sow discord between Watson and the Dragon Clan. Fafnir's expression was a little sour. Watson, I did not expect you to be the one who murdered our compatriot. I had wanted to prepare a dragon for you. It appears that the dragon must be stronger to avoid being killed by you. See, Watson, even if they disagree with you. Julius expected the Dragon Clan to be enraged. He had no idea that instead of blaming Watson, Fafnir intended to give Watson a stronger dragon. What was going on? Everyone looked puzzled. In response to those people's doubts, Fafnir's lips curled upward. Her eyes glowed with disdain. Initially, she went to the capital to avenge the death of the Thunderclawed dragon. Unfortunately, she had signed a contract with King Landhar III before exacting her vengeance. Her desire for revenge had become much weaker after witnessing King Landhar III's powerful strength. In addition, Watson was a significant figure who had created a potion to increase the fertility of the dragon race. It was acceptable to sacrifice a Thunderclawed dragon for the sake of the dragon race's future. Julius reasoned that he could use the situation to sow discord between her and Watson. As a member of the dragon clan that had existed for hundreds of years, he had no idea that she was well aware of the human's intention. Watson is too lucky. Perhaps it is because he made the potion. The dragon clan is now eternally grateful to him. Even if he had eaten a dragon, the dragon clan would not dare to punish him. Many students in the academy looked envious. They lacked Watson's ability. They would lose their opportunity if they were not selected. It was impossible for them to be given another dragon. Watson, with your strength, a normal dragon is no longer useful to you. I was going to give you 2 of my family members, Olena and Rem, but I have changed my mind. I am going to have my name engraved on the dragon totem. Could you test it again to see if you are compatible with me, the Dragon King? As Fafnir spoke, she cut her finger, and a drop of bright red blood dripped from her fingertip. The blood fell onto the dragon totem, instantly turning it a blazing red color. The ferocious red light suppressed all the other colors. The Dragon King held a high and mighty position in the Dragon Clan. There were only 8 Dragon Kings in the entire Dragon Clan, and they were second only to the Dragon God. The Dragon Totem would only record information about ordinary dragons, not existences such as the Dragon King. That was the first time that a Dragon King had recorded her information in a Dragon Totem for a person. Those who were envious of Watson were made even more so by that scene. They wanted to move quickly and start the test in Watson's place. Fafnir's strength as the Dragon King was not only comparable to that of a Starlight tier god, but his wisdom was also far beyond that of ordinary people. If he could convince her to be the Dragon Knight's mount, he could probably do whatever he wanted on the entire continent. Lady Fafnir, I do not believe there is any need to put you to the test. I don't have the talent to become a Dragon Knight, and there is no need for me to become a Dragon Knight. I am already strong enough. I will become stronger in the future, even without the Dragon Clan's assistance. Initially, I thought it was great to have a dragon for free, but it appears that has surpassed my expectations. I am sorry. Watson scratched his brow. Everyone was taken aback by what he had to say. Many of the students might not have the opportunity to become a Dragon Knight, but Watson had turned it down. They did not understand why Watson refused. On the one hand, when his hand touched the dragon totem, he felt the dragon power enter his body, but the source of chaos elemental magic in his body completely devoured it. It appeared that the dragon's power was good nourishment for the source of chaos elemental magic. Under such circumstances, he would not let the dragon totem react no matter how he tested it. On the other hand, he did not want to turn Fafnir into his mount. After all, Fafnir was a Dragon King. The other 7 Dragon Kings would most likely have strong feelings if she became his mount. After all, they were all Dragon Kings. How would it appear if one of them became a human's pet? It was not worth antagonizing the Dragon Clan for the sake of a dragon mount. Watson hoped to build a good relationship with the Dragon Clan, so he did not want that to happen. Watson, you are far too arrogant. Lady Fafnir has already stated that as a sign of respect, but you refused her offer. Do you not respect her and the Dragon Clan? If you don't do the test, then we won't test anyone else. Nobody will be able to become a Dragon Knight. It will be all your fault. Fafnir had suggested putting her information into the Dragon Totem. Even though Rem did not agree, she did not say anything to stop her. Instead, when she saw Watson's refusal, she was relieved and angry. Why should a mere human reject the Dragon King's suggestion? Watson would have made a move against her if he had not been able to concoct a potion for the Dragon Clan. You are so troublesome. Okay, I will try again. Quote. Watson sighed. He had already walked outside, but he turned around and returned to the Dragon Totem. He raised his hand and placed it on the stone tablet. His mind entered a strange space once more, just as it had before. He did not see any other dragons at that time, unlike before. He only saw a dragon with dark red scales that glowed with starlight. Lava flowed through the scale gaps. The dragon was as massive as the sun itself. The dragon had 3 eyes with a red vertical pupil on each side and a golden eyeball in the center of their brows. Its head also had a bronze crown. The 3-eyed dark red dragon looked down on Watson like an elephant looking down on an ant. Watson detected an aura similar to Fafnir's from the dragon. That dragon was, without a doubt, Fafnir's projection. Fafnir's dragon was one of the rarest in the dragon race, the infernal searing dragon. When they grew into adulthood, the dragon would reach diamond tier. The lava on the infernal searing dragon's body immediately swelled as they looked at each other, and the sparks that flew into Watson's body became a part of his energy. That was also a part of the dragon's power. After entering his body, it attempted to fuse with the energy in his body. The chaos elemental magic source eventually devoured it. Fafnir's energy stayed in his body for hundreds of times longer than the other dragons from before that. It appears that I also failed this time. Watson was unsurprised by the outcome. With his previous experience, he knew he would have to leave the mysterious space once he absorbed the dragon's power. The dragon's power could not compete with his body, which is why he failed. Typically, the dragon knights could perform the dragon fusion because the dragon's power could fuse with the human's power to achieve a balance. Watson raised his finger, and a black substance appeared on the tip of his finger. That black substance was the energy left behind by the god of poison. After that, he fused it with the infernal searing dragon's sparks. Once the toxic and fire merged, it instantly turned into a black flame, exuding a strict aura like that of a god. The dragon fusion system is very similar to mine. It is similar to a weakened version of my fusion system, which can forcibly fuse anything, whereas the dragon fusion system can only fuse energy of comparable level and quality. He could compete with Fafnir if he only used the god of poison's power. Unfortunately, his body contained magic, combat aura, divine kingdom, chaos elemental magic source, fusion system, and other miscellaneous things. It was impossible to match Fafnir completely. To be more specific, Fafnir lacked qualifications. Watson sighed as he exited the mysterious space. When he opened his eyes, he discovered that he had returned to the Royal Academy. He took his hand off the dragon totem stone tablet. A number derived from the enigmatic dragon language appeared on the stone tablet. The number was different at that time. It was no longer a 0 but a 1. Watson, your compatibility is now 1, not 0. That means you and I are somewhat compatible. Unfortunately, the level of compatibility remains insufficient. But do not worry, the number of dragons listed in the dragon totem is not exhaustive. If you return to the dragon lair with me later, I will undoubtedly find you a suitable dragon. Fafnir's expression became strange as she stared at the number on the stone tablet. She could feel the changes within the dragon totem to some extent because she had recorded the information into it. After Watson placed his hand on the dragon totem, a black hole appeared within it, and the power transmitted into it had vanished. Watson is not compatible with thousands of dragons because his power is too great. Rather, the dragons could not keep up with him because Watson's power is too great. That is far too unexpected. Fafnir sighed in her heart. Typically, dragons and humans were incompatible for a variety of reasons. One difference was that the power they cultivated was unique. For example, humans cultivated water elemental combat auras, making them incompatible with fire elemental dragons. Another reason was the vast difference in strength between dragons and humans. If a person with only bronze tier strength wanted to become a dragon knight, their body would not be sufficient to support the fusion with a dragon. Even if they could match, a bronze tier elite would not be able to withstand the power of the fusion. Of course, if it were a gold tier elite, the difference would be less noticeable. A platinum tier dragon and a gold tier dragon knight, for example, would be able to match very well. However, as a dignified dragon king, she could not compete with Watson due to her strength. Watson was much stronger than her. Was it really possible for a human genius to be far more powerful than her? Fafnir was unsure whether his guess was correct. Julius, who was nearby at the time, sneered. You failed both tests. It seems like the kingdom's most powerful genius is only average. If you can't compete in the dragon race, which is known as the toughest race, it shows that your talent is limited. You said that you could become strong without the dragon clan's help. That is merely an excuse. The dragon race was viewed as a symbol of strength by the general public. The ability to compete with the dragons was a sign of talent. Even if one were not strong at that moment, one would be stronger in the future. As a result, Julius's statement was not unreasonable. Watson can't compete with the dragons, proving that his talent is not as great as we thought. If we gain the dragon's favor, we may be able to surpass him after becoming a dragon knight. Many geniuses felt elated and excited in an instant. Watson was unconcerned about what the people around him were thinking. He turned around and walked back into the crowd. Simultaneously, Fafnir began the official compatibility test. Raven, a fourth-year student at Royal Academy, is 100% compatible with a Platinum-tier Dream Elven Dragon. He meets the requirements to become a Dragon Knight. Sakir, a second-year student, is only 50% compatible. He is ineligible. Christina, a first-year student, is a perfect match for a Diamond-tier Sword King Mountain Dragon. She has the potential to become a Dragon Knight. Casey, a second-year student, is linked to a Platinum-tier Sleeping Bag Dragon. Fafnir had finished the test for tens of thousands of students in the Royal Academy in less than an hour. Only about 500 students were chosen. You are all eligible to become a Dragon Knight. You will have to accompany me to the Dragon Lair for further screening to determine who will be among the final 90 recruits. Fafnir placed the dragon totem into the black box and announced it loudly after screening the students. The faces of the 500 people were beaming with delight. Those who were not chosen wept as if they had lost family members. It is unfortunate that my compatibility with a dragon is only as high as 90%. I almost made it. Even if you are qualified, a new round of elimination will take place. Can you guarantee that you will be one of the remaining 90 recruits? Don't even consider it. You can't compete with people who are more compatible. That selection includes Watson and Miss Nia, the kingdom's second genius. They will fail because they are geniuses who are far more powerful than we are. It is not a big deal if we fail. What you said makes sense, but Watson is not like the rest of us. Even if he fails, he still has the Dragon King's assistance in finding a new dragon. Don't worry, if he fails to match with thousands of dragons or even the Dragon King, he has almost no chance of matching with the remaining few dragons. Some people who failed used Watson and Nia as role models to help them feel better. Those who passed the test can gather here. Later, members of the Dragon Clan and the Dragon Knight Legion will accompany you to the Dragon Lair. King Landhar III spoke after Fafnir finished the tests. Yes, Watson, what gives you the right to ride on a dragon? Julius continued to attack the young man after noticing Watson's silence. Just standing on the back of the dragon is an insult to us and the Dragon Clan. Do you mean I can't ride the same dragon as you? Watson inquired. Watson, you are right. Instead of trying to be brave and making a fool of yourself, if I were you, I would have left dejectedly a long time ago. Watson nodded in response to Julius's mockery. I understand. Lady Fafnir is the one who invited me to the Dragon Lair. It would be wrong if I did not go. But since you said that, I am not going to argue with you. Is it enough if I have a way to get to the Dragon Lair by myself? Watson, you may be unaware that the Dragon Lair has a magical restriction. It is impossible to enter unless one is on a dragon. How would you enter the Dragon Lair if you were not with us? Is it possible that you have a dragon in your home? According to Urius, it elicited a burst of laughter from the audience. That is correct. I do have a dragon in my house, and there are several of them. Watson made a fist at the sky and chanted the word, world, in his heart. A massive black tunnel appeared in the sky. Julius scoffed at Watson's remarks. He was about to tell the young man not to brag when he heard two terrifying dragon roars from the black tunnel above his head, followed by a dazzling diamond-tier dragon. His expression stiffened as a pitch-black dragon that resembled death itself revealed its shadow. Everyone else was stunned too. Watson did not deceive anyone. Did he really have a dragon? Chapter 449. Got them from the ruins. Mount Creation, on the outskirts. Do you really intend to return to the royal city now, Mayor Durant? A group of people in Monty Town looked eagerly at Durant, who had packed his luggage and appeared to be about to embark on a long journey. Their expressions were filled with apprehension. That is correct. We agreed that after young Master Watson leaves for the Royal Academy, he will visit the Ptolemy family. Young Master Watson has left the World Creation Mountain for half a year. Even if I leave now, it will have no effect. Watson had only been at the Royal Academy for a month when he left Mount Creation. Unfortunately, the time on the mountain had increased tenfold, so nearly a year had passed. In addition, Lubin, the mayor of Torchtown, was also there. Durant lifted his head to gaze up at the sky. Lubin was in midair, a few pairs of different colored wings spread out on his back. He was standing on top of a massive black hole in the sky, and his wings were covered in various forms of combat aura. A young girl with a face that resembled Watson stood near the hole. A faint illusory vortex wound around the young girl's face. She opened her arms and created a dark tunnel that led to an unknown location. A massive dragon was in the tunnel. It soared and emitted a terrifying roar, its entire body covered in a nebula, each scale shining like a diamond. The girl who kept the passage open was the girl transformed by the World Transformation Mirror. She was maintaining the passage while asking Lubin and Durant, "Hey, Mayor Durant and Mayor Lubin, do you want to leave or not? Even though I have the ability to connect to any location on the planet, teleporting a diamond-tier dragon to the royal city is a difficult task for me. I will have to close the passage in a few seconds if you do not leave now." "Leave? Who says we will not leave? Durant, can you please hurry up? This is a fantastic opportunity. Globe has opened the passage to the Royal Academy, based on young Master Watson's orders. If you keep dragging your feet, I will leave on my own." Hearing Lubin's words, Durant returned his gaze to the citizens in front of him, took a deep breath, and waved his hand. "Everyone, I am going to the royal city now. I will be staying in the royal city for a while. I am not sure when I will be able to go back to Mount Creation. You might have to wait a few years to see me. Please do not miss me too much. I will get to see young Master Watson in the royal city. If you have anything to say or bring to young Master Watson, I can help you get the message to him." "Mayor Durant, that is what I have been waiting for you to say. You are free to stay in the capital for as long as you like. Actually, we will not miss you all that much. We do miss young Master Watson, though. We have prepared the things we wanted to bring to young Master Watson. For example, the diamond-tier weapons produced from the wish for the world ring. There are so many that Mount Creation is nearly full. Send a batch to young Master Watson right away so he can refine even more powerful weapons. The water from the Spring of Life has recovered significantly in the years since young Master Watson left. We will not make potions with water from the Spring of Life. If we drink it too quickly, it will freeze our own strength. You are welcome to send that water to young Master Watson. I am not sure if Phoenix Eggs and Platinum Tier Magical Beast Meat are available in the capital. I will have to trouble Mayor Durant to help us to get these Phoenix Eggs and Magical Beast Meat to young Master Watson. We also have sun and moon gems from the trees." As they threw each item to Durant, the residents of the town were all chattering. They did not appear to be leaving. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for Durant to leave so they could bring those items out. Diamond-tier weapons and armor, tons of sun and moon gems, water from the Spring of Life by magic in the air, and other miscellaneous edible items were sent out. Every item was extremely valuable. Durant's lips twitched as he stared at the mountain of supplies in front of him. He would not have said anything to help transport the supplies if he had known earlier. Those guys were extremely disrespectful to him. The supplies were most likely several tons in weight. He might not have been able to take them away if he did not have the strength of a platinum-tier elite. "Oh, yes, Mayor Durant, we still have some things to give to young Master Watson." Young Master Watson had sown wheat on the farmland, and it had matured. The wheat has already been successfully upgraded to platinum tier due to various farmers using the wish for the world ring's ability to upgrade them. It would greatly increase one's speed and strength after consuming it. Young Master Watson had left in a rush, having yet to sample the wheat. "Why don't you bring some for young Master Watson, Mayor Durant? It is difficult for Globe to keep the passage open. I have to leave now. You might want to deliver the items to young Master Watson, but it is too late for that. I will deliver those things next time." Durant refused the residents' request with a cough. He flew toward the empty hole in the sky as if fleeing and used his combat aura to grab a small mountain-like item. It was one thing for those people to give him a mountain-like object, but they wanted him to take a piece of land near the border. That was too ridiculous. If he did not run then, when could he? Simultaneously, in the city of Steel, not far from the border. At that moment, a terrifying dragon's roar erupted from the city's most famous structure, the Tower of Babel. The Death Omen Star Dragon's voice is coming from the top floor. Is it possible that someone has ascended to the 100th floor? A group of adventurers stood in the upward spiral passage, panting as they leaned against the wall, staring at the tops of their heads, perplexed. It is not possible. We are no match for the angel-like soldiers stationed on each floor, let alone the diamond-tier Death Omen Star Dragons on the 100th floor. A male member of the adventurer team looked at the angel-like soldier, who stood motionless with a long sword above his head, like a statue of an angel soldier. His eyes were filled with fear. We are now on the 50th floor, which is a great accomplishment for all of the City of Steel's adventurers. There are only a few daring teams that can compete with us. Currently, the Blood Rose Adventurer team with the most levels cleared is only on the 80th level. They are only a few levels away from completing the 100th level. Another member spoke up. If no one made it to the 100th floor, why did the Death Omen Star Dragon roar? Ignore it. It is pointless for us to think about it right now. Let's pray that we will receive a good reward in the Tower of Babel in the upcoming fights. We can obtain more weapons to equip ourselves as we progress through the levels. After a few sarcastic remarks, the adventurers team resumed their ascent. A team of 4 stood at the entrance to the 80th floor, a higher position above them. They could see the end of the Tower of Babel. At that moment, a massive black passageway appeared above the tower, and a massive black dragon with 4 mysterious stars on its head was being sucked into it. The Death Omen Star Dragon has always guarded the 100th floor, but it has now vanished. Could something have happened to the Tower of Babel? A young man in a beautiful priest robe pushed his monocle upward, perplexed. Leon, young Master Watson built the Tower of Babel. If anything happened to the Tower of Babel, it had to be due to young Master Watson. Do you still remember the bet we made with young Master Watson? The girl standing next to him said. She was dressed in a fiery red feather coat and had freckles on her face. We can go to young Master Watson's side and become a guard as long as we clear the Tower of Babel within the agreed upon time frame. We have been fighting in the Tower of Babel for a long time, but we are still on the 80th floor. That is truly unfortunate for us. I am afraid the young master is aware of our ineptness and is dissatisfied with us. That is why he called the dragon away. We have to look on the bright side, Annie. Young Master Watson is a man who follows through on his promises. There is no reason for him to break his promise before the deadline. Perhaps he has another reason for summoning the dragon. We have already done our best to clear the 80th floor. Those angel soldiers are true monsters. We have gained a lot of experience and are constantly getting stronger. Those soldiers are also growing in strength. We have the blessing of the Tower of Babel, no matter what. Otherwise, those soldiers would have stopped our advancement. They are indeed worthy of being young Master Watson's soldiers. The adventurer group on the 80th floor was none other than the Blood Rose Adventure Team. Not long after Watson left, the team had raised their Adventurers Association level to Platinum Tier. That was the kingdom's first Platinum Tier adventurer team. Arthur was the one who spoke at that time. Arthur's body was much fuller than it had been a month before. His muscles were as hard as granite. Simultaneously, stubble appeared on his face, and he appeared much more mature. His past frivolous attitude could hardly be seen. Let's get this party started. Whatever the significance of young Master Watson's walking away from that dragon is, what we are going to do has not changed. Geraint stood in front of the 3 of them, holding a longsword in one hand and a shield in the other. His entire being was like a barrier in front of everyone. As he fixedly stared at an angel carrying a long spear on his shoulder, his eyes flickered with a sharp sword-like light. Only by defeating the Black Moon Knights, and demonstrating that we are stronger than them, will we be able to join young Master Watson's side. We should not waste time waiting for that chance. After young Master Watson summons the Death Omen Star Dragon, we should seize the moment because that is when we will most likely be able to complete the level. You are correct. Let's keep fighting. The group erupted into a powerful aura comparable to a Platinum Tier elite upon hearing Grant's words. They were clearly able to communicate with one another and proceeded to a higher level. At the Royal Academy, following the dragon's roar, 2 completely different dragons descended from the sky. One of them was armored in diamond scales, and its entire body was encased in golden nebula glitter. The other was completely black, and when it appeared, it completely covered the sky. It was as if the blackness had turned into death. The appearance of the 2 massive dragons elicited a chorus of applause throughout the Royal Academy. What kind of dragon is that? Its entire body is pitch black, and it looks terrifying. Just looking at it gives me the illusion that I'm facing death. This dragon shouldn't only be in Platinum Tier. It isn't just the pitch black dragon. The sparkling dragon beside it also looked extraordinary. Is that a nebula wrapped around its entire body? It looked so beautiful. Watson does, in fact, raise dragons. He has 2 massive Diamond Tier dragons. That is far too frightening. Many members of the Royal Academy stared at the sky in disbelief. It did not matter if they were regular students or those chosen to be Dragon Knights. Everyone in the Holy Dragon Kingdom knew that only the royal family could sign a treaty with the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan was a noble group. It would have been nearly impossible for an individual to sign a treaty with the Dragon Clan. Even though the Winter Nation had proposed a treaty toward the dragons, it was rejected. One could only imagine the difficulty of that task. Those two dragons look very strange. They do not resemble any of the dragons we have seen before. Are they wild dragons who have strayed away from the Dragon Clan or new dragons? Fafnir's eyes flashed as she stared at the two dragons in the sky. As a dignified Dragon King, she was well aware of how many dragons existed in the Dragon Clan and what each dragon looked like. However, she had no idea who the two dragons were. Watson, you have consistently exceeded my expectations. King Landhar III sighed. He pinched a corner of the throne and exerted a little force. You raised two dragons secretly under my nose in my kingdom, and I didn't know anything about it. You are capable, indeed. It appears that I will need to dispatch personnel to the border to conduct a thorough investigation. You must have border guards too. I'm afraid you have done a lot of work in places I am not aware of. The Diamond Star Dragon and the Death Omen Star Dragon had already landed as everyone's reactions varied. They formed a circle around Watson in the center, one in front and one behind. Except for Fafnir, the powerful aura they emitted made all the other dragons feel threatened. They continued to retreat. My dragons have arrived, Vice Captain Julius. May I ask if I am qualified to accompany you to the dragon lair now? Watson raised his hand, and the two massive dragons shrank into two small dragons, only as long as his arms. They curled up like two obedient kittens on Watson's left and right shoulders. Julius opened his mouth to say something, but he was speechless. Was Watson not qualified to accompany them? Watson, on the other hand, had two dragons that appeared to be very docile. They were Watson's pets. Even dragon knights such as themselves could only have one dragon in their lifetime. It was extremely difficult to find a new dragon after one died, like what had happened to him. Julius was unable to accept that. Watson killed and ate his dragon, but he was still able to gain the Dragon Clan's favor. He even kept massive dragons as pets. It was exasperating. Even Julius could not speak, let alone those from the recruits from the Royal Academy. They were unconcerned because Watson was not qualified for the test. Who would have guessed that Watson did not even have to meet the qualifications for the test to have a giant dragon? Watson was not lying when he stated that the test was unnecessary. The Dragon Clan's dragons, according to Watson, might not even be as powerful as the ones he had raised. If Vice Captain Julius has no further questions, then let us proceed to the dragon lair. Watson stroked the small dragons on his shoulders. He had not seen those two dragons in a long time. He missed them terribly, and it was clear that the two dragons felt the same way. They rubbed their heads against his hand as he stroked them. They would occasionally open their mouths and spit out a small ball of dragon breath to represent their happiness. Wait a moment, look at the sky. That black hole has not vanished. Something appears to have fallen through. Just as everyone was getting ready to leave, a sharp-eyed individual pointed to the sky and cried out in surprise. Many people turned to look at the sky after hearing that person's voice. The hole above their heads did not close after the appearance of the two massive dragons. Instead, it appeared to be growing. Watson's brow furrowed in puzzlement at that scene. What is going on? I only requested Globe to send the two dragons. Why did the passage not end after the dragons came through? Is it possible that Globe made a mistake, or did something unexpected happen? While Watson was thinking, two figures appeared in the black hole. One of them had golden hair and was dressed in beautiful gold clothes. The other person was in red. He had red hair and was slightly plump. That was not the main point. The main point was that they were surrounded by a massive halo. 3 different colored wings were on their backs. They came in the colors red, yellow, blue, green, black, and white. They represented the 6 elements: earth, fire, water, wind, light, and darkness. A chaotic colored airflow with no eyeball flowed behind the wings of those 6 elements. It exuded a powerful sense of oppression. What kind of creature is that? They looked like the Abdador family's Stella when she appeared in the Royal Academy during the day. Are they angels? The students looked at Stella and Rose Wiser in shock. Stella stared at the sky, her mouth agape, unable to speak. Those two guys are angels, but based on their auras, they are far more powerful than me. Are they ancient creatures that escaped from some ruins? But didn't the angel race go extinct tens of thousands of years ago? What exactly is going on? While everyone was stunned, the two angels flew down from the black hole. During the angels' descent, everyone could see that they were carrying treasures the size of a small mountain on their heads. They saw diamond-tier weapons, armor, and sun fruits. There were also massive eggs surrounded by flames and emitting phoenix cries and magical beast meat with intense energy fluctuations. Those were items that the royal city's residents had never seen before. The two angels landed on the ground and retracted their wings in an instant. They piled the treasures they held in their hands on the ground. What is going on? Are those two angels here to deliver treasures to the kingdom? After seeing that scene, many people reflected on it. They initially assumed that those two angels were hostile. However, when they saw the two angels place the treasures on the ground, they seemed to not be in the mood. After all, who would want to carry so many treasures before a battle? People were taken aback by each of the treasures. Did you create those two angels, King Landhar III? Fafnir asked. Even though those two angels came from the black hole, she felt they had little to do with Watson. After all, angels were a legendary race. They were referred to as God's servants. Only those related to the gods were qualified to summon the angels. Furthermore, the kingdom appeared to have recently received a windfall. Tens of millions of gold coins were freely given to the Dragon Clan, and those angels held treasures in their hands. It led to speculation that the angels were related to King Landhar III. In a way, King Landhar III responded ambiguously. In his heart, he was also wondering about that. Did Sidi create those two angels? Sidi was the only goddess who had descended in the entire Holy Dragon Kingdom. She was the only person who could have made the angels, but what was Sidi's purpose in doing that? Sidi would not have given so many treasures away for no reason at all. The two angels landed on the ground and looked around, perplexing King Landhar III. It has been a long time since I have returned to the capital, they murmured excitedly. This place still looks the same. It is not like the atmosphere on Mount Creation. Is that the Royal Academy? There are quite a few people here. The two angels' gazes were drawn to Watson's direction in the crowd as they spoke. The two of them then started walking in Watson's direction. They both passed by King Landhar III's throne. The king rose to his feet and asked, "Who are you? What are you doing in the Holy Dragon Kingdom? Is this the Holy Dragon Kingdom? You must be King Landhar III, the current monarch. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Durant. I am a member of the Ptolemy family." After King Landhar III stood up, the golden-haired man among the two angels bowed his head. The crowd erupted in response to his words. He claimed to be part of the Ptolemy family. Is that right? How long has the Ptolemy family had an angel? Many people were taken aback by Durant's words. Casey from the Ptolemy family suddenly stood up on the back of a massive dragon and asked, "Durant? From the Ptolemy family, Uncle Durant? It's me, I'm Casey." "You are correct, young Master Casey. It's me. I have no idea young Master Casey is all grown up." Durant smiled as he looked at Casey. There were also exclamations in the opposite direction. "Are you Lubin from the Campbell family?" Some Campbell family members were chosen to be Dragon Knights. They recognized the person with Durant and could not help but inquire about him. Lily was one of them. "Miss Lily, you are correct. I remember carrying you when I went to see the clan leader when I was younger." Lubin's lips tightened. With the confirmation of the witnesses, everyone no longer doubted Durant and Lubin's identities. They were taken aback. It was one thing for an angel to appear in the Ptolemy family, but how did both the Ptolemy and Campbell families get an angel each? Furthermore, they had a large number of treasures between them. Did they get those treasures from ancient ruins? King Landhar III had the same opinion. "So the two of you are from the Ptolemy and Campbell families. It looks like you have not only become angels, but you also have a powerful strength comparable to a platinum-tier elite. You have made a significant contribution to the Holy Dragon Kingdom's combat strength. I shall reward you lavishly. But first, why don't you tell us how you became angels? Also, are those treasures for me? Your Majesty, we became angels because of young Master Watson, so we should thank young Master Watson." We may have belonged to the Campbell or Ptolemy families in the past, but now we are just minor figures under young Master Watson's guidance. We didn't bring those treasures here to offer to the kingdom. Rather, we brought them to young Master Watson from the border. Lubin spoke modestly. Then, he pointed to the mountain of treasures in front of him and said, "These are not particularly rare. They are simply weapons and armor that will not be useful at the border. We have some fruits from the trees, as well as some slightly better quality meat and eggs." Useless weapons and armor? The luster of the weapons on the ground rivaled the platinum-tier weapons that had recently appeared in the kingdom. In other words, those weapons were at the very top of platinum tier and could have even been diamond tier. Such weapons were unnecessary. What weapons were used at the border? There were also the aforementioned fruits growing on the trees. They resembled the sun and moon fruits that the king had distributed during the exhibition. How did those fruits grow so close to the border? Could the border be split from the Holy Dragon Kingdom and is now in the Southern Elven Kingdom? Many people did not recognize the so-called high-tier meat and eggs, but they could tell that they were extraordinary. "Is that the meat of a platinum-tier magical beast?" someone shouted. Everyone looked up to see the person standing on the dragon's back. It was Charlotte from the Saint Laurent family. Charlotte, like Lily, had been chosen to be a Dragon Knight recruit. She could not help but widen her eyes as she stared at the magical beast meat on the ground. She was susceptible to the fluctuations emitted by magical beasts of that level because she had eaten similar meat before. And the eggs have flames burning them. Are they the phoenix eggs that Watson frequently mentioned? Lily added her 2 cents. She nearly drooled when she saw the meat. What are they? Their gaze was drawn to a jade-green river hovering in the sky. The river was encased in magic and resembled fine amber. It had starlight, and just looking at it from a distance gave the impression that it was alive. That river was the most eye-catching of all the treasures, and only a handful of people knew about that. That is the spring of life. Without a doubt, that is the legendary treasure that has been guarded for generations by the Elven Kingdom in the Forest of Eternity, the spring of life. Stella and Rose jumped out of the crowd and stared at the spring above their heads, their lips trembling with delight. They had doubted Watson when he said he had water from the spring of life, but they knew he was not lying when they saw it. The water had exceeded their expectations, stretching for dozens of meters. That spring had the potential to generate tens of thousands of blessings of the gods and demons. That was some concept, was it not? Everyone was initially disappointed that Watson had not been chosen to be a Dragon Knight. However, their feelings of regret were utterly replaced by shock at that moment. They had not expected Watson to be so wealthy. If they were the ones with such wealth, a mere Dragon Knight position was unimportant to them. At that moment, those who were ecstatic after they were chosen as candidates for the Dragon King recruits quieted down. If given the option, they would prefer to obtain those items over becoming a Dragon Knight because any of those items were far more challenging to get than the opportunity to become a Dragon Knight. Phoenix eggs and water from the spring of life? Really? Aren't those too precious? Is the border so prosperous? Many people could not stop muttering in their hearts. Watson, please explain. What's going on? King Landhar III's eyelids twitched when he learned that those items were not for the kingdom but Watson. He did not even have those resources as a king. When he saw those treasures, he felt greedy. However, according to Geraint and Lubin, those were only their regional specialties. One could deduce Watson's wealth from that. The platinum-tier weapons and the sun and moon fruit wine paled in comparison to what was in front of him. King Landhar III could not figure out how Watson obtained the phoenix eggs and water from the spring of life. Well, those items were discovered in an ancient ruin while I was out one winter, and they were obtained from that ruin. You keep making things up. King Landhar III's pupils constricted. He did not believe anything Watson said. If there were such ancient ruins in the kingdom, he would write his name upside down. Watson, you got those things, including the spring of life, from the ancient ruins? Yes, Your Majesty. I did say that I obtained the spring of life in the ancient ruins and the formula that allows a person to become an angel. Geraint and Lubin became angels because of that. The other items, such as the phoenix egg and magical beast meat, were left behind because they were what was left when a fight broke out between the magical beasts in the ruins. Watson maintained a calm demeanor while spewing nonsense. He cursed silently in his heart. Why were Geraint and Lubin there? He was aware that the two of them intended to visit him in the capital, and he did not mind as they had not visited in a long time. Who would have guessed that they would take advantage of the opportunity to transport the dragons to join him here? They had also brought a large amount of so-called local specialties. Those who had spent a long time on the mountain might have thought those things were very ordinary. Outsiders, on the other hand, had a different experience. In other parts of the kingdom, the mere appearance of any of those things was enough to make people go insane. Doesn't that reveal my strength and trump card? At that moment, he heard King Landhar III ask in an odd tone, "Watson, I can't confirm whether what you said is true or false. I am wondering if the 2 dragons on your shoulders were discovered in the ruins as well. What kind of dragon could survive there for so long without eating or drinking? I did find the 2 dragons in the ruins, but they never stopped eating or drinking. The ruins had many platinum-tier magical beasts, phoenix eggs, and water from the spring of life. They eat extremely well. Tell me, Watson, where are those ancient ruins? I need to go take a look. Please accept my apologies, Your Majesty. Those ruins collapsed as soon as I stepped inside, and you can't go there anymore. There's nothing I can do even if you wish to enter it, Your Majesty." Watson and King Landhar III exchanged responses to each other's questions. While King Landhar III sneered and suppressed his desire to curse Watson for spewing nonsense, Watson appeared calm. What did he find in the ancient ruins? Such words could only deceive a child. It did not matter because it could not fool him. In any case, he had already made up his mind. He would send people to the border to investigate what had happened, and he would be able to see all of his doubts at a glance. "Watson, this is the Dragon Knight's recruitment process. Is it appropriate for your servant to bring local specialties as a gift?" "Clearly not. As a punishment for disrupting the process, I will keep those local specialties for the time being." King Landhar III waved his hand and issued the order, not wanting to waste any more time with Watson. "That is a gift from my family, Your Majesty. A gesture of their goodwill. Perhaps you won't take it and leave them with me?" "Take it? I am not claiming them as them. I'm only keeping them on your behalf. I will return them if you perform well." "I see that as taking, Your Majesty." "Watson, stop talking. Leave the royal city with the Dragon Clan. If you dare to say another word, I will take those items and the 2 dragons on your shoulders." "All right," Watson agreed reluctantly. Geraint and Lubin, who had just arrived, came to Watson's side and comforted him as if sensing his distress. "Do not worry, young Master Watson. Those things are not particularly valuable on Mount Creation. Only the water from the Spring of Life is worthwhile. We do have the World Tree, and it can still produce more water." They sobbed. Lubin was trying to console him, but before he could finish, Watson had covered his mouth. As he looked around, he silently cursed Lubin for being an idiot. Watson became aware of everyone's attention on him in an instant. "A world tree? Watson, I had no idea you had a world tree in your home. It is no surprise you are full of life. Could you please explain what that is? What is the significance of the world tree?" King Landhar III's face was warm, and his voice was calm, but anyone could see the storm beneath his facade. If Watson could not respond, King Landhar III might attack him on the spot. "Is there a world tree? What kind of world tree? Did you hear someone say world tree?" Watson pretended to be dumb by covering Lubin's mouth. I heard it as well. Perhaps that Lubin was talking about something else? After all, only the Elven Kingdom has had a world tree from ancient times. The border could not possibly have a similar one. The world tree was more valuable than any Starlight tier weapon and armor. The world tree was not only difficult to sustain, but it would only take shape after thousands of years of growth. The long time span was enough to kill the world tree. There was only one world tree in the Forest of Eternity. That was also why the leaders of the various kingdoms were willing to pay a high price to strike a deal with the Elven Kingdom to obtain a portion of water from the Spring of Life. "Okay, I have a world tree at home. As for how the world tree was created, well, it was during a particular winter." Watson sighed as he noticed everyone did not believe his words. "During a particular winter, you unintentionally discovered an ancient ruin. You noticed the world tree as soon as you walked in. The ancient ruin collapsed after you obtained the world tree. Am I correct?" "That is correct, Your Majesty. I did not expect you to be so accurate in predicting my experience." Watson was perplexed. King Landhar III rubbed the space between his brows with his hand. I do not want to talk to you anymore, Watson. Lady Fafnir, please bring them to the dragon lair for the recruitment test. The reason he knew about Watson's experience ahead of time was quite simple. It was because Watson had said it so often that he had almost memorized it. I understand. Fafnir regained her composure after King Landhar III spoke and waved her hand. Members from Dragon Clan instantly transformed into massive dragons. They took off from the royal city, followed by the Dragon Knights. Wait, Your Majesty, I have not finished speaking yet. Fafnir had thrown Watson onto her back. Unfortunately, no one paid attention to him. Fafnir flew further away, becoming a small black dot in the process. Geraint and Lubin, come to my palace later. I have a question for you. Hone, send these so-called local specialties to the palace. Yes, Your Majesty. Lubin and Hone both concurred. Your Majesty, what about the 10 billion gold coins that Watson needed to develop the potion just now? He had only used 1 gold coin to refine the potion. I don't know what to do with them, Hone said after a brief pause. Send them to the palace as well. I will keep them for him for now. I am pleased to announce that the Dragon Knights recruitment process is complete. Thank you for your efforts, everyone. Return to your rooms. Then, King Landhar III turned around and asked the guards to assist him in lifting the throne. He hurriedly went back to the palace. Many people were envious of him after witnessing that scene. They could see why King Landhar III was worried. They would be even more concerned if it were them. At the same time, they realized that they would have to work extra hard to please Watson from then on. It was possible that his family's local specialties would be worth their lifetime's efforts.